What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 4 decimeters. 061. The high-spirited Espada, be careful of Bai Ye. Advertise here. Lord Aizen, are we gathering together to kill those Shinigami? I can't wait. Can you let me go first? It would be interesting to grab some Shinigami for experiments. It would be even better if there are captain-level Shinigami. Espada is the 8th. A man with pink hair and golden eyes who speaks like a gentleman, but the words coming out of his mouth make people feel chilly. Zael Aporo. The same position as Kurosaki Mayuri in Soul Society, is Hwako Mundo's scientist. Even in Espada, it is also a very important existence. Aside, Coyote Stark looked like a decadent middle-aged uncle, lying on a chair, indifferent to anything, as if he came to attend a meeting and just wanted to deal with it. Others, the 3rd Espada, Rival, who has brown skin, green eyes, and a plump bust, looked at Aizen, full of awe. It was Aizen who gave her the power to protect Apache, Mira Rhodes, and Sun. If Aizen needs her power, she will do it. As for Grimmjow, Yami, Neutra and other radicals who were usually eager to fight and obsessed with fighting, they all looked excited at this time. 987 wanted to go to Soul Society and have a big fight. Look at Espada's fighting spirit below. Aizen nodded. Before achieving the goal, having some chess pieces can also cost you a lot of experience. As for the fight between the Espadas, and their relationship, Aizen doesn't care. Even though the first 3 blades of Neluel were plotted together by Zael Aporo and Neutra and fell out of the ranks of Espada, Aizen did not ask any more questions. After all, it doesn't matter who the thug is, as long as he can fight for himself. The attack on Soul Society is necessary, and it is also to test you and test Espada's power. However, Soul Society is not as simple as you think. You can only simply destroy it, kill some Shinigami, and then return to Hwako Mundo. Aizen's words were a little low. After all, Soul Society, I'm afraid Captain Yamamoto alone can handle all Espada if he activates Bankai. What's more, in the Spirit King Palace, there is still the Zero Division whose details are unknown. According to legend, each of them has the power to defeat the entire Gote 13. The combat power he can truly display is at least on par with Yamamoto. If you underestimate the enemy, it is likely to bring great losses to Hwako Mundo. Before you obtain Hogyoku and ascend to the heavenly seat, you should not act too ostentatiously. Now, the most important thing is to eliminate the vitality of Soul Society and prepare for the future victory of Hogyoku. Lord Aizen, we understand. Zael Aporo, Grimmjow and others said respectfully, even though they were all Ijukas wandering in Hwako Mundo before. But, I also have some understanding of Soul Society. The various captains of Gote 13, as well as Yamamoto Genryusai, are the ones they value, and even if Aizen doesn't tell them, they will pay attention. Next moment, Aizen seemed to notice something and looked at the communication device in his hand. Although his face was expressionless, his eyes were already narrowed. Through the chess pieces he laid out in Soul Society. Naturally, all major events in Soul Society cannot be hidden from his eyes. Bai Ye, Aizen murmured softly, with an interesting smile on his face. Just now, he has already learned the news that Bai Ye killed the Kuchiki family and killed the Kuchiki Silver Bell. Now the entire Soul Society is exploding, and everyone is shocked by Bai Ye's audacity. Even Aizen. I was also quite emotional. Killing the head of the Kuchiki family. This incident is comparable to charging into Central 46 with a knife. It is a provocation to the current rules of Soul Society. It seems, my previous judgment about you was wrong. Aizen's square-framed glasses reflect the light. Before. He thought that Bai Ye was just talented and acted arbitrarily, but I would not offend others unless others offended me, BDEH, and he still had his own bottom line of rules in his heart. But, now, Aizen discovered, I can't see through Bai Ye at all, and all my previous judgments about him must be overturned. Being able to kill the Kuchiki family with a knife, does he have the so-called bottom line of the rules in his heart? This kind of thing, it is a great provocation to the entire Soul Society rules. B. It cannot be measured by common sense. His existence is an unstable existence for Soul Society. Not to mention, the current Bai Ye can kill Kuchiki Gingalingji almost instantly. No matter what method he uses, his combat power is enough to stand in the first echelon under Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni. On par with Kyoraku Shunsui, Unohana Retsu and others, or even better. Blue, Master Aizen. Below, Zael Aporo, Grimmjow and others were anxious to get Aizen's permission to participate in the battle against Soul Society. Neutra is also holding a scythe, with a fighting spirit on his face. He can't wait to break into Soul Society now. Only, they found that Aizen, who had always maintained a poker face, had a smile on his lips and was deep in thought. As for Baragan, he quietly stayed away from Aizen. He knew the horror of Aizen best. Now that he is so abnormal, I'm sure there is something bad in his heart. Ah, I'm lost in thought. Aizen spoke softly and looked at Espada who was gearing up below. Now, let me add one more point. After entering Soul Society, if you see a drunken boy carrying a wine gourd, just bypass him and attack him. Bai Ye. It is an unstable factor. No one knows what is going on in his mind. Although he and Bai Ye are very different in terms of personality, appearance, and ability, they are still the same kind, in essence. Both of them are geniuses who are different from ordinary people. Only, Aizen doesn't know Bai Ye's ambition. If he killed the Kuchiki family because he couldn't stand the rule of the aristocracy, then why does she have a very good relationship with Yoruichi in private? Now Aizen can only judge that Bai Ye is the kind of person who does whatever he wants, and does whatever he wants. No rules or order can bind it. Good thing. Bai Ye didn't seem to be blocking his path. As long as he avoided it through his own actions, there was no need to consider Bai Ye. By the way, that boy's name is Bai Ye. Aizen looked at the confused espada below, smiled softly, and then added. Bai Ye, Zael Aporo, Neutra, Haribel and others looked puzzled. After all, the news channels between Hueco Mundo and Soul Society were not very smooth. They had not heard of Bai Ye, who had become famous recently. According to Master Aizen, Bai Ye is still a teenager. To be able to arouse Aizen-sama to be so afraid, who is this person? 062. Let Bai Ye become the experimental subject. Advertise here. Bai Ye. He is also the #1 genius in Soul Society today. Aizen Sosuke added. The first genius. Below, Zael Aporo, Neutra and others were relieved when they heard these words. There was also a trace of indifference in his eyes. After all, in Hueco Mundo, who can become a spada, who is not a genius chosen once in a century? Even the first genius of Soul Society is nothing more than this, and at best he is only at the level of a spada. What they pay more attention to are long-established strong men like Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni, Hiraku Shunsui, and Unohana Retsu. So, even after Aizen's reminder, Zael Aporo licked his lips instead, his eyes shining with interest. If I could defeat this Soul Society's first genius and make him his test subject, I'm afraid the progress of the various experiments I'm currently conducting would be greatly improved. On the side, militants such as Neutra and Grimjow had fighting intent in their eyes, quite intent on competing with the first genius of Soul Society. Only the first 3 blades of Coyote Stark, Baragon, and Haribel know that Aizen will not miss the target. Those who can be valued by Aizen are extraordinary. And above, Aizen looked at everyone's expressions and didn't care. Anyway, these, Espada, members are just chess pieces. Even if an arrogant fool dies in the Quiet Spirit Garden, other hollows can still be found from Hueco Mundo to make up for it. After all, although Vasto Lord is not common. But there are still a lot of Ijukas in Hueco Mundo. Lord Aizen, we understand. Regarding Soul Society's offensive, when will it start? Baragon took a step forward and looked at Aizen. Scheduled for 7 days. There was a smile on Aizen's lips. Now, the entire Jing Ling Ting is in a state of panic. The death of Kuchiki Jin Ling also needs a certain amount of time to ferment. 7 days. It's the perfect time to catch Soul Society off guard. Below, Espada all saluted respectfully, and no one dared to disobey Aizen's orders. Just as Hueco Mundo was deliberating. At this time, Seireitei was like a hornet's nest that had been doused with hot oil, and everyone was in a commotion. People are in panic, even in the streets and alleys, there is turmoil, especially the Kuchiki family, which has recently assembled the family's private army and is stationed in various industries and clan areas. The news about Kuchiki Yinling being killed by Bai Ye is still spreading further. Now, in bars, restaurants, and various entertainment venues, all the civilians were discussing this matter crazily. After all, Bai Ye's momentum was so obvious at the time that the entire Jingling court could feel the power and madness. Bai Ye, he actually killed Kuchiki Yinling. You know, that was the head of one of the 4 noble families. How could he be killed so easily? This Bai Ye is really going to be heaven-defying. Also, a friend of mine is a member of the Kuchiki family. According to him, it took less than 5 seconds for Bai Ye to kill Kuchiki Silver Bell from when he appeared. As soon as these words came out, everyone gasped. Kuchiki Ginling, who is that? Not only the head of the family, but also the captain of the 6th division. Regarding his strength, he is even a second-class spiritual power. Even among the captains, he is a strong person that can be counted on one hand. But such a strong man was almost killed by Bai Ye like he was chopping melons and vegetables. Simply terrifying. In this way, Byakuya Kuchiki, Kuchiki Shanghai, Kuchiki Yinling, the 3 front figures of the Kuchiki family were all killed by Bai Ye. Someone noticed something strange and sighed in their words. Others are even more in awe. If they offend Bai Ye, the whole family will die. Who can withstand this? Vice Admiral Bai Ye is included in the list of candidates who must not be offended. After this battle, Bai Ye not only holds the title of the #1 genius in Soul Society, but he himself is one of the most powerful people in the entire Soul Society. According to word of mouth, Bai Ye even has the title of the most powerful person under Captain Yamamoto, the name. At the same time, Seireitei, aristocratic district, a large and luxuriously decorated Highgate compound. A man with a black beard and sharp eyes listened to the report of the intelligence officer below. The surrounding seats were filled with people who either had heavy breaths or had gray hair, and each of them was indescribably noble. They were all the elders of the Tsunayashiro family, and together with the family head, they were in charge of the power of the entire family. Tsunayashiro family. He is one of the 4 nobles and manages the Great Spirit Book Corridor. He usually keeps a low profile in Soul Society and has not done anything major. The only major incident was 100 years ago when the young head of the family, Tsunayashiro Tokunada, killed his colleagues and his wife and was imprisoned. Please give me flowers. But the Tsunayashiro family ranks first among the 4 nobles. In the entire Soul Society, they have the greatest say and can even influence the judgment of Central 46 to a certain extent. Master, that's it. Bai Ye has returned to Y Pavilion and has not taken any action. Gotei 13 and Central 46 are still silent, seeming to be discussing how to deal with Bai Ye. As for the Shiba family and the Shihouin family, there have been some small moves against the Kuchiki family during this period, and they have the idea of annexing some of the Kuchiki family's affiliated nobles and properties. Below. After the intelligence officer finished reporting, he respectfully withdrew. Everyone, what do you think? Above, the middle-aged man speaks calmly and has the bearing of a superior person. He is the head of the Tsunayashiro family and one of the most powerful people in the entire Soul Society. Master, we still stay away from Bai Ye. After all, this person acts without scruples, but he also has a powerful emperor. There is no benefit in attacking him. Below, the family elders were discussing. Now, our first priority is to annex the weak Kuchiki family's industry and increase the family's strength. It's just that our young patriarch is still in prison. If the young patriarch can come out, it will be a good thing for the entire family. Tsunayashiro Tokunada, the young head of the Tsunayashiro family, but he made a big mistake before and was imprisoned. Due to the imprisonment of the young family leader, the recent strength of the Tsunayashiro family has also been greatly affected. After all, those affiliated nobles are just outsiders and value the potential of a force more. As long as the young master of the family does not come out for a day, the Tsunayashiro family will lack an heir, which will be a heavy blow to the reputation of the entire family. Now, even though Byakuya was killed in Soul Society, the talent has not decreased. On the contrary, Bai Ye, Yoruichi, Ichimaru Jin, Shiba Kongzuru and others are particularly outstanding, especially Bai Ye, who has now become the second largest person next to Captain Yamamoto. 10 echelons of strong men. Only when Tsunayashiro Tokunada reappears can the Tsuyashiro family have their own new generation of strong men. Only with the ability to compete with geniuses such as Bai Ye and Yoruichi 6.063. Captain Kuchiki, my Captain Kuchiki. Advertise here. It's also time to release Shitan. Tsunaya nodded on behalf of the family head. Before. For some unknown reason, all the heirs of the Tsunayashiro family were assassinated inexplicably, and the murderer behind the scenes could not be found. Now only Tokunada is left, qualified to be the heir. Middle. Naturally, some people have suspected Tsunayashiro Tokunada, but there is no evidence. The Tsunayashiro family has always respected strength, and some of the family elders are extremely supportive of Tsunayashiro Tokunada, thinking that such capable people can make the Tsunayashiro family continue to be strong. The master of the house is wise. Below, many elders spoke respectfully. Now, releasing Tokunada has only advantages and no disadvantages. At this time when the jingling court is in turmoil because of Bai Ye, the Tsunayashiro family needs such a young and strong new generation to lead the Tsunayashiro families, 4.3, to strive for more benefits. Above, Tsunayashiro sighed softly. To release Tokunada, Central 46's approval is needed, and the Tsunayashiro family also needs to pay some price. At the same time, the vast, ancient-style building complex is filled with powerful Shinigami wearing Black Death Tyrant outfits and Reiatsu. Gotei 13 headquarters. The entire Soul Society is the most powerful place in terms of military force. Not only are there captain-level warriors, but the strongest Shinigami in 1,000 years, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni, is in charge. Only, the originally peaceful headquarters was now filled with a tense atmosphere, especially in the 6th Division team building. All the team members were even more sad, as if they were mourning for their heirs. They just practiced in the team building as usual. Unexpectedly, the captain is gone. Captain Kuchiki, who had always been powerful enough to suppress the entire 6th Division, could not even hold on for a few seconds under Bai Ye. As soon as this news came out, it caused a sensation in the entire Gotei 13, especially in the 6th Division. Everyone was shocked and numb. That Bai Ye, what kind of monster is he? Hey, I didn't expect that all the Kuchiki family died under his sword. Not only did the captain fail to avenge Byakuya, he even suffered the consequences himself. The members of the 6th Division were talking a lot, their words full of emotion and confusion about the way forward. Now, the captain is dead. They still don't know who will be the next captain, and none of the current members of the 6th Division are strong enough to break through to the 3rd level of spiritual power and Master Bankai. Captain Kuchiki woo woo woo. Some people burst into tears. After all, once Kuchiki Ginling dies, the entire 6th Division team members will have to be shuffled. Maybe the players who perform poorly will be sent to the 4th Division team, or other divisions. As a squad that protects the nobles, the 6th Division enjoys the highest treatment even in the entire Gotei 13. If they were kicked out of the 6th Division, this would be unacceptable to them. Not far away, Hiraku Shunsui, Love Aikawa, Hirako Shinji, Urahara Kazuki and others gathered around a small table with sake placed in front of them, taking a sip from time to time. I didn't expect that times have changed. Captain Kuchiki was here drinking with us a few days ago, but now we are separated from each other. Hiroko Shinji took a sip of wine and his words were filled with emotion. Although Kuchiki Ginling behaves arrogantly on weekdays, he has no close friendship with these captains. But such a captain-level figure is gone as soon as he says goodbye. Moreover, he is an elite captain who has broken through to the second level of spiritual power. He is completely different from the previous Kenpachi. All this makes him feel unrealistic. Maybe Captain Kuchiki can regain his glory in hell. Aside, Love Akawa also sighed. In this world, in addition to Hawako Mundo, the present world, and Soul Society, there is also the existence of hell. Whether it is Kion or Shinigami, they will go to a place called hell after death. Moreover, the four major noble families are now the Kuchiki family, the Shiba family, the Shihouin family, and the Tsunayashiro family. But, at this stage, they knew that there was a fifth noble family in Soul Society, but that family was very mysterious and not well known even in Soul Society. On weekdays, he works extremely low-key. If he didn't read some historical materials, he might not even know about the existence of this family. And that mysterious family, what is in charge is hell? Maybe. Urahara Kazuki also took a sip of wine. He didn't feel much about Kuchiki Yinling's death, but silently listed Bai Ye as a person not to be messed with, in his heart. Etc. So, Gote 13, have had two captains die during this period, and they were both killed by Bai Ye. Hiroko Shinji seemed to remember something and exclaimed. Everyone on the side also had expressions of emotion, and the corners of Kyoraku Shunsui's mouth twitched slightly, shocked by Bai Ye's ability to make trouble. Original. I just think Bai Ye is an interesting drinking buddy. But during this period of time, day and night, he refreshed his knowledge again and again. It seems, as long as Bai Ye is still in Jinglingting, Sailingting will never be stable. Presumably, Captain Yamamoto is more troubled than them. By the way, where is Shiba Isshin? I haven't seen him all day today. Someone said in a confused tone. He returned to the Shiba family. Urahara Kazuki said calmly. Because Bai Ye killed Kuchiki Yinling, the prestige of the Kuchiki family has dropped to the lowest level now. Now Tsunayashiro, Shihouin, and the Shiba family are all eyeing the big cake of the Kuchiki family to seek more benefits for the family. As for Shiba Isshin, as the strongest member of the Shiba family and the head of the branch house, he naturally wants to return to take charge of the overall situation. This is also an opportunity for the Shiba family. After all, the current Shiba family is extremely weak, with only two people left in the younger generation, Shiba Kongzuru and Shiba Kaiyan, with only one Shiba Isshin above. If things go on like this, the Shiba family will soon fall out of the ranks of the great nobles. 2.1 However, this time, if the Shiba family can draw enough blood from the Kuchiki family, it will be an opportunity for the Shiba family. Drink, let Central 46 have a headache for this kind of thing. Kyoraku Shunsui picked up the wine glass with a lazy look on his face again. Now, Bai Ye has such fighting power, not only can Zanpakutō change the sky, but also have the ability to teleport. It is said that he also has some kind of weird and unpredictable sealing ability. He even sealed his Bankai during the battle with Kuchiki Ginling. Even he can't see through Bai Ye's strength. He really doesn't know how Room 46 will judge him. If Bai Ye is offended, the wanton Bai Ye might just teleport up to Room 46064. Release Mole City Kenpachi. Advertise here. At this time, first team building. Yamamoto Genryusai sat on the futon, the tea in the teacup in his hand had already cooled down. Aside, Chojiro Sasaki looked at Mr. Yamamoto, who had a black line on his face, and felt a little emotional in his heart. Captain Yamamoto was invincible when he debuted, and he has been undefeated in the past few hundred years. Even the knife she left on his forehead was caused by Captain Yamamoto's carelessness and underestimated the power of his Yanryamaru. But, now Yamamoto was F***ed twice by a boy. He killed two people under the nose of Captain Yamamoto. It almost made Yamamoto doubt his life. Only, all this is not that Captain Yamamoto is not strong, but that Bai Ye's teleportation and other abilities are too weird. Captain Yamamoto, don't blame yourself, you have done what you should do. Chojiro Sasaki comforted him. But, Yamamoto didn't answer, he just held the teacup and thought for a long time before sighing. Hey, if it's too rigid, it'll be easy to break, but if it's rigid enough, it will gain everyone's awe. Now, he also understood. 14. With the ability shown by Bai Ye, he can even go directly to the Central 46. No one can stop him. Not to mention, his combat power has also reached an extremely high level. You know, even if you want to kill Kuchiki Silver Bell in a few seconds, it is impossible without using Bankai. And Bai Ye actually killed Kuchiki Silver Bell directly with only Shikai. How terrifying would it be if he waited until Bankai? I don't know. How will those stubborn old men in room 46 respond after learning all this? Now, island in the middle of the lake. This is the most heavily guarded and most powerful institution in Soul Society, Central 46. Only, at this time, there was silence in the huge conference hall. Everyone in room 46 was looking straight at the light curtain in front of them. Even though the photo taken from a long distance was very blurry, they could still see Bai Ye as if just like chopping melons and vegetables, Kuchiki Yinling was killed directly. The judges and sages all had big drops of cold sweat on their foreheads. If Bai Ye uses teleportation to kill Central 46, it's really possible, after all, after this period of time. It is a known fact that Bai Ye does whatever he wants. Everyone, we still have to discuss Bai Ye's matter. Above, the judge coughed lightly. At this time, the whole room 46 has a headache. What on earth are they going to do to restrain Bai Ye? After all, to kill a nobleman or the head of the Kuchiki family, according to law, he must be sent to Sokyoku Hill to receive the most cruel punishment, but who can catch Bai Ye now? You can't let Bai Ye tie his own hands and obey the law. If they cannot limit Bai Ye's ability, then what can they do to minimize the impact of Bai Ye's incident and maintain the dignity of the nobility to the greatest extent? Regret. This is the thought in the minds of the entire 46th room. Why didn't he take action against Bai Ye earlier? If he had been determined to arrest Bai Ye when he killed Byakuya, there wouldn't be the current trouble. And now, Bai Ye has grown into an absolute powerhouse in the jingling court. Why? Looking at the silent people below. The Grand Inquisitor above sighed softly. Now, it makes them want to take action against Bai Ye, considering the consequences and Bai Ye's backlash. After all, if this person can teleport, he can really kill the 46th room. I think our 46th room is not without foundation. It's better to take advantage of the moment to directly control or kill Bai Ye. Below, some sages expressed their thoughts, and their words were full of chill. If the 46 chambers fight for it, a mere Bai Ye is actually nothing, but they, the judges and sages, have to bear certain risks. After all, if Bai Ye is allowed to escape, given his character, he will definitely kill the 46th chamber. No one will be spared by then. After all, they only have high status, but their real combat power is not even as good as the seats in Gotei 13. And room 46. To be able to stand in Soul Society for 10,000 years, he naturally has his own background and a strong person in control. In the endless hell, the strongest and most evil people of all time are imprisoned. There were no more than 9 people in total. Mole City Kenpachi is a criminal who has been imprisoned in the eternal hell in the past 200 years. He is also one of the most powerful Kenpachi in the history of Gotei 13. His Bankai can merge with the entire Seireitei and control all the spirits within the Seireitei. It can be said, as long as he is within the confines of the Seireitei, his combat power is not even inferior to that of Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni, who has been released. After all, Mole Castle Kenpachi's predecessor, Kusarayashiki Kenpachi, was even invited by Team Zero because of his own strength. But just such a person was instantly killed by Mole Castle Kenpachi. This shows the terrifying combat power of Mole City Kenpachi. On the condition of pardoning his innocence, releasing him from the hell, suppressing or killing Bai Ye, even Mole City Kenpachi will be very interested. Someone continued to add, the mood is very radical. What's more, even if it fails, Team Zero will take care of it. Team Zero will definitely not be able to sit back and watch Soul Society fall into chaos. A member of Team Zero. After being blessed by the power of the Soul King, each person is enough to defeat the entire Gotei 13. Among them, Ichibei Hyōsube is even more invincible and is the being who named the entire Shinigami world. He is a person of the same era as the ancestor of the 5 nobles 223 and the spiritual king. Team Zero is here. Soul Society cannot make any big waves. Inappropriate. More people rejected the idea. They are conservative and don't want to take risks. Even though their reasons are high-sounding, their deepest thoughts are to protect themselves. After all, Bai Ye's ability, if used for assassination, is simply too terrifying. Even if Bai Ye is killed by Mole City Kenpachi or the Zero Squadron, if he fights back before death, the lives of everyone here will be in danger. In that case, let's continue the discussion and make sure there is a result that gets the best of both worlds. However, we will not take action against Bai Ye now, but as soon as we find an opportunity, we will directly eliminate him or control him in our own hands. Even at the cost of releasing Mole City Kenpachi or other criminals, this unstable factor must be completely resolved. Above, the Inquisitor said softly, Bai Ye, he has an unpredictable and daring personality. If he is allowed to stay in Jinglington, it will be a time bomb. But to the members of Room 46, his strength is like a sharp sword round the neck. Discussion about Bai Ye. After 3 days and 3 nights, Central 46 finally achieved a barely feasible result. 0.065. Don't be nervous, Lord Harabel. Advertise here. After 1 day, Seireitei. The news about Bai Ye's punishment was like a boulder smashing into a puddle or a hurricane sweeping across it, causing an uproar in the entire Soul Society. All civilians have seen the punishment plan for Bai Ye. Permanently expelled from the Seireitei. You can't become a noble for life. Question mark question mark question mark question mark. Just these 2 items. No more. Everyone's eyes widened, and there was an uproar in their hearts. Unexpectedly, Bai Ye killed Kuchiki Ginling, and was not taken to Sokyoku Hill for execution, but was executed immediately. Just these 2 punishments. Learn all this. Everyone was discussing wildly, and there were rumors about Bai Ye everywhere in the streets. Although Bai Ye is not the death penalty, those 2 punishments are serious enough. Even for Bai Ye, his future in the Jingling Court has been completely blocked. Not being able to enter the Serenity Courtyard, he can only live in remote places like Rukongai. Not being able to become a noble means that he will not have any say in the aristocratic class. Also, what he has done before is equivalent to standing in front of everyone. The opposite of a great noble. Presumably, except for the few nobles who have a good relationship with him, I am afraid that other nobles are afraid of this Bai Ye and even hate him. Someone analyzed calmly. Haha, do you think Bai Ye cares about this? These 2 punishments in room 46 are just to cover up their cowardice. Someone else retorted. Who is Bai Ye? His combat power is second only to Captain Yamamoto. And in terms of assassination, he is now the well-deserved number 1 in Soul Society. Even the nobles in room 46 are afraid that their heads are unknown. The white ones fell off. Expelled from the Seireitei. Ridiculous. If Bai Ye really enters Seireitei, who can stop him? Who can capture him? This is just empty talk from the 46th chamber. And it's even more ridiculous that he can't become a noble throughout his life. With his strength, does he need to be a noble to whitewash himself? Even if Captain Yamamoto is not a noble, he is still the strongest Shinigami in millennia. Everyone has different opinions. After learning that the 2 punishments in the 46 chambers were not painful for Bai Ye, everyone felt awe in their hearts, and their awe for Bai Ye even rivaled that of Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni. In Soul Society, if someone can kill a big noble and escape alive. Apart from Captain Yamamoto, I'm afraid there is only one person left, Bai Ye. Now, just when the outside world was having different opinions and crazy discussions, Gotei 13 also heard the news about Bai Ye's punishment. People with discerning eyes like Hiroko Shinji and Kyoraku Shunsui can see the purpose of room 46 at a glance. By the way, your Vice Captain Aizen has been in Rukongai for the past few days, and now he is hunched over his desk to handle official duties as soon as he comes back. It saves you a lot of worry. Kyoraku Shunsui looked at Hiroko Shinji and smiled lightly. Hiroko Shinji waved his hand and did not answer. Looking at the man with square glasses and a plain and gentle face in the team building, he frowned slightly. These days, through other people's information, it was found that there was nothing unusual about the hollows that Aizen had been killing in Rukongai. It was also clearly known that Aizen had been staying in Rukongai and had not been to other places. But, Hiroko Shinji felt a slight sense of disobedience, as if Aizen was wearing a mask, preventing him from seeing through his inner thoughts. Subsequently, he shook his head. Forget it, Aizen is right under his eyes anyway. Even if he wants to do something, he has to suppress him. After all, Aizen is just a deputy captain level combat case. No matter how much you think about, it will be in vain if you don't have the corresponding strength. At the same time, inside the team building, Aizen raised his head and looked at the sky outside the window with gentle eyes under his square-rimmed glasses. Hyoka Suigetsu was casually carried around his waist. As we all know, this is just a flowing water-type Zanpakutō that can make enemies kill each other. There is no powerful power emperor. Bai Ye's incident has now attracted the attention of the entire jingling court. Central 46, Gotei 13, or other big nobles are also in trouble because of Bai Ye at this time. Now, this is when Soul Society's defenses are at their weakest. At the same time, on the edge of Soul Society. Stab. There were dark, deep cracks. This is the black cavity, and it is also the channel through which Manos Grandes come and go between Soul Society or the real world. Dull footsteps fell to the ground, and people wearing bone armor and with a steady aura came out. Manos Grande, who was full of powerful feelings. Manos Grande is divided into Vasto Lord, Ejukas, and Jillian from strong to weak. Jillian-level Manos Grande with a pointed nose and dozens of meters tall emerged from the black cavity like free locusts, mixed with some smaller Ejukas-level Manos Grande. As for the leader, a few of them were completely transformed into human forms, with only bone armor still remaining in certain parts of their bodies, and their auras were as strong as the abyss and the sea. Espada 3, Harabel. Espada no. 5, Neutra. Espada 6, Grimjow. Espada no. 8, Zael Aporo. There are 4 powerful espadas. Even among the many Manos Grandes, they are like stars holding the moon in their arms, and the Manos Grandes look at them with awe. Quote, quote. Is this the atmosphere of Soul Society? It's so refreshing. Zael Aporo opened his arms, took an exaggerated deep breath, and showed an intoxicating smile on his lips. Compared to the desolate taste of Hueco Mundo, I still prefer the taste of Soul Society. Quiet, peaceful, subsequently, whoosh, sound. With a flick of his finger without any warning, a Sero that was as thin as Ultimate crossed several hundred meters and hit a Rukongai resident who was hiding underground and shivering with fear in his eyes. There were so many Manos Grande, blocking out the sky and the sun, that he was scared to death. As the resident screamed, his soul gradually melted away like spring snow, and his whole body lay on the ground like mud, and then lost his voice. Harabel looked at Zael Aporo, with a trace of anger in her eyes. These Espada members were so murderous and took pleasure in killing the weak, which made her feel very uncomfortable. Don't be nervous, Lord Harabel, you don't want our whereabouts to be exposed because this stupid Rukongai resident. The corners of Zael Aporo's lips curled up slightly. There's obviously a better way. Our mission this time is to eliminate the active forces of Soul Society, not to massacre these civilians who pose no threat. Harabel's face was expressionless. .066. Bai Ye, please torture me severely. Advertise here. Okay, Okay, we understand. Zale Aporo smiled lightly, not wanting to argue with Haribel, a pedantic woman. The only ones we need to worry about this time are Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni and a group of veteran captains. By the way, there is also Bai Ye, who was highlighted by Aizen-sama. Haribel once again gave everyone a few words of advice. This time the action was against Soul Society. Since she had the highest ranking, she was naturally the leader of everyone. Bai Ye, if there is a chance, I would like to fight with him. Grimjow has a fighting spirit on his face. This, Soul Society's #1 genius, is also a strong man as Master Aizen calls him. Does he live up to his name or is it just an appearance? Neutra on the side also weighed the scythe in his hand. He now felt that his scythe was already hungry and thirsty. Zale Aporo is even more like a mad scientist. Haribel frowned slightly and had a headache. The candidates sent this time were either madmen or war mad. Even if they could cause maximum damage to Jingling Court, it would still be difficult to manage. But, the life and death of these people has nothing to do with Haribel. Next, according to the plan, each person will be responsible for one direction and launch an attack on Seireitei. Haribel gave the final order. Intend. First, a small number of Manos Grande caused a commotion in Rukongai, and then attracted the Gote 13, or the strong men of the Kidō crowd, and then the Espada members appeared again and annihilated them in one fell swoop. If you encounter an enemy that you cannot match, you will retreat with your black tongue. Following Haribel's order, the place was like an ocean, and the densely packed hollows bowed their heads respectfully. Then 4 espadas, each with dozens of Manos Grande, and a large number of ordinary hollows, approached the Seireitei from 4 directions. Now, Rukongai, Y Pavilion, Bai Ye, please use your big wine bottle to torture me severely. A trembling female voice sounded out, mixed with a bit of humiliation. Yoruichi's face is slightly rosy after being drunk, and paired with a wheat complexion as delicate and soft as satin, it looks quite special. I didn't expect Yoruichi-sama to show such an expression. Aside, a rather delicate-looking girl with black bangs covered her forehead and didn't dare to look any further. Now, Lord Yoruichi, after failing to compete with Bai Ye again, is carrying out the humiliating punishment that Bai Ye calls. Although I don't know if it can be considered a punishment. But humiliation is indeed quite humiliating. Who would have thought? Bai Ye drinks 3 cups, Yoruichi-sama drinks 1 cup, but she can't drink Bai Ye. Sui Feng quietly looked at Bai Ye, who looked calm, and silently classified him into the massive category. Yoruichi is already great. Bai Ye patted Yoruichi's head with a smile, like petting a cat. Talk. Yoruichi can also turn into a black cat in the original work. I don't know, what does it feel like to cry? Yoruichi gritted her teeth and silently endured Bai Ye's cat-licking techniques. Although she was filled with humiliation now, she didn't know how Bai Ye came up with such an idea. But, now seeing that Bai Ye can still live so relaxed and happily after being sentenced in room 46, her original humiliating mood has improved a lot. Yoruichi, can you please turn into a cat? Bai Ye said directly what he was thinking. What are you doing? Yoruichi's eyes were wary. As for Sui Feng on the side, he was the first to react, showing an expression that said, you can't, at least you shouldn't. Since it's your request, don't even think about it. Yoruichi decisively refused, who knows what trouble Bai Ye will make. Subsequently, she and Sui Feng said goodbye decisively. When I came here, I was just worried that Bai Ye would be affected by the incident in room 46, but now it seems that Bai Ye is not worried at all. His mood couldn't be better. They also have to go back to deal with the affairs of the second division as soon as possible. And Bai Ye didn't care. Room 46 just uses punishment to cover up their weakness. If room 46 really wants to take action against them, they can use Taishu Flash Goddess again. Descend directly into room 46. After all, after this period of time, he has spread the snowflakes containing his spiritual power to the 3 realms. In addition to the mysterious hell, the present world, Hueco Mundo, and Soul Society are all teleportation anchors of his Taishu Flash Goddess. Bai Ye thought about it and felt thousands of teleportation anchor points, full of peace of mind. Right now, some maids filed in and cleaned up the mess they had just made while drinking. This is a maid specially used to serve Bai Ye. Each one is carefully selected, and their appearance and figure are of the highest quality. However, Bai Ye felt a pure gaze looking at him. Turn around and look. I saw a girl wearing a pink sakura flower kimono with pink lips, like the crimson sky. Feijun. Talk about it. I haven't investigated clearly about her immunity to Reiatsu. Feeling Bai Ye's gaze, Feijun's neck was a little red, looking like the most precious agate jade. Bai Ye came forward when she was most helpless and killed the powerful enemies who invaded Y Pavilion. Even though it was not to save her, she was still grateful to Bai Ye in her heart. After all, it was Bai Ye who gave her an indescribable sense of security at that time, and his powerful fighting posture was in sharp contrast to his usual leisurely and drunken image. Bai Ye protected Y Pavilion and also protected her source of income. Otherwise, if a weak Shinigami like her wanders around in Rukongai, she will either be swallowed by the void or starve to death. Even if she can survive, her life will definitely be extremely difficult. Look at Bai Ye there. Feijun finally clenched her fists and mustered up the courage to come to Bai Ye. Master Bai Ye, can you let me dance for you? Just think of it as repaying Bai Ye. She has nothing else to offer. Only calligraphy and dancing are good. Master Bai Ye is obviously not the kind of arty person who pays attention to calligraphy. Dance. Bai Ye's eyes were a little confused, and he couldn't figure out Fei Jun's brain circuit. So good, what kind of dance are you dancing? But if it comes to your doorstep, you will naturally not refuse it day and night. What's more, in the original work, Fei Jun's evaluation is the most beautiful dance in Soul Society. Good. Bai Ye nodded. Fei Jun's face lit up. She was ready to be rejected, but Master Yuya was so friendly and willing to watch the dance of a lowly maid like her. 067. Taishu Flash Goddess evolves. Spirit Amplifier. Advertise here. Bai Ye lay leisurely on the sofa covered with soft fur. A glass of scarlet wine was still shaking in his hand, and he squinted his eyes comfortably while smelling the refreshing aroma of the wine. And at this time, Fei Jun also had a serious face and went down to change clothes. Since Master Bai Ye wanted to see her dance, then she had to do her best. Not long after, above Y Pavilion, the sound of silk and bamboo sounded. Fei Jun was wearing a pink dress. She was beautiful but not tacky. There was no part of her body that was not beautiful. Especially the high slit thighs and the dazzling white skin. It makes people wonder. Even Bai Ye was a little surprised when he saw Fei Jun's outfit. One thing to say, Fei Jun is Rukia's sister. Although the two look very similar, their personalities are completely different. If Rukia is the good buddy and 420 character, then Fei Jun is the perfect match. Good wife and mother. And Fei Jun somewhere. It's countless times bigger than Rukia. Bai Ye watched Fei Jun dance gracefully. The front of her body was swaying as if it was about to explode. Even if it was not as good as Matsumoto Rangaku, it was almost the same. Who would have thought? Hyjin, who always wears a kimono, has such a great figure. Or, Bai Ye took a sip of wine and looked at Fei Jun dancing, as graceful as a startling dragon. It is indeed known as Soul Society's most beautiful dance. Just watching it for a while, Bai Ye felt that his mind became clearer and his mood became more comfortable for no reason. At this time, Fei Jun had completely immersed herself in the dance, and her whole body seemed to be glowing. Open black lens bracket ding. Close black lens bracket. Congratulations to host for continuing to drink in Y Pavilion. Host's spiritual level has exceeded 60% of the third level. Close black lens bracket. Good. Bai Ye nodded. Reiatsu is the foundation of all strength. As long as Reiatsu reaches a certain level, even if you don't know anything else, you can still be ranked among the top experts. But, immediately afterwards, the system's mechanical sound continues to sound. Open black lens bracket ding close black lens bracket. You watched Soul Society's most beautiful dance, while drinking, and sighed with emotion about the elegant enjoyment of host life. Your Shunpo breakthrough, Forbidden Technique Taishu Flash Goddess evolved, and you obtained the ultimate Taishu Flash Goddess. Close black lens bracket. Evolution. Bai Ye narrowed his eyes and looked at the introduction of Taishu Flash Goddess on the system panel. If we say that the previous Taishu Flash Goddess required a medium containing its own spiritual power, such as snowflakes or other items, to be cast. And now, the evolved Flash Goddess does not require any media at all. As long as your Reiatsu is covered, or wherever your spiritual power exists, you can complete teleportation. Good. Bai Ye nodded with satisfaction. Now, my Reiatsu is fully released, and can even cover most of the Seireitei. It can be said that as long as you think in your heart, you can instantly teleport to the place you want. If my future Reiatsu is powerful enough to cover the 3 realms, then I will be everywhere in the 3 realms. And I used Taishu Flash Goddess to catch many people off guard before, but Taishu Flash Goddess also has shortcomings. As long as the other party remains vigilant and keeps distance from the snowflakes that contain their spiritual power, there is nothing I can do about it. But now, this shortcoming has also been perfectly solved. However, my current Reiatsu is not enough to cover the entire world. If I want to go to Hawako Mundo or the present world, I still need the snowflake medium. What a great harvest today. Bai Ye raised the corners of his mouth slightly and continued to take a sip of wine. Hyjin has really brought a lot of gains to himself, not only Reiatsu, but also Taishu Flash Goddess has evolved. Time flies. The sound of silk and bamboo gradually fell silent, and the dance entered the final stage. Fei Jun was also a little out of breath at this time. After all, she was just an ordinary spirit body and did not have the power of Shinigami. However, for Master Bai Ye, she still insisted on dancing the entire dance, and also performed many difficult moves. But, right now, boom. Suddenly there was a thunderous roar in the distance, the ground was shaking, even Y Pavilion shook suddenly, and many maids who were playing inside were staggered. Fei Jun's feet went weak, she exclaimed and fell directly into Bai Ye's arms. Bai Ye hugged him firmly, and the Reiatsu on his body inadvertently released a little, but the next moment, Bai Ye's pupils shrank slightly. He found. When his own Reiatsu was submerged into Hyjin's body, it seemed to be completely isolated, and the next moment, his previous Reiatsu appeared from the same place and submerged into his body. Moreover, Reiatsu becomes even more powerful after going through this cycle. Even if the improvement is very subtle, it is a real improvement. If you do this for a long time, your Reiatsu will also get a qualitative change. Could it be that? Bai Ye thought in his mind that he had discovered Feijun's anomaly long before, and even the most powerful Reiatsu could not cause any harm to it. But now, he can be sure that Feijun's body is similar to a spiritual amplifier, or a training aid. This ability. In the original work, Feijun's death was not mentioned too early, but now, there is a job in Y Pavilion, and professional doctors conduct regular physical examinations on the employees of Y Pavilion. Even though Heijun still goes to Rukongai to look for Rukia from time to time, her physical condition is still much better than in her previous life. Very good. Can you become stronger by sticking to Feijun? Bai Ye nodded with satisfaction and continued to feel the effect of this spiritual amplifier. And in the arms, Fei Zhen was frightened in her heart. She fell into Master Bai Ye's arms, so she wouldn't make him angry. However, the next moment, feeling Bai Ye's movements, she gave up the idea in her mind, and her face turned slightly red. Even if you don't hate Bai Ye for doing this. However, something seems to have happened in the outside world, and even Y Pavilion is shaking. Master Bai Ye will not delay the business. At this time, 2.1 Bai Ye continued to study as tirelessly as a scientist. Even though Ka Yi Pavilion still shook from time to time, and powerful waves of Reiatsu, like the vast ocean, came from the distance, he was not affected at all. One hand hugged Fei Zhen, and the other hand gently shook the wine, feeling the sweetness of the wine. Reiatsu from the outside world. It's not Shinigami's Reiatsu. The frenzy and violence mixed in it are obviously the power of Hollow. The strongest among them is just the level that has entered the third level of spiritual power for the first time. It's just that this amount. Bai Ye murmured softly. This number has far exceeded every virtual tide in the past. Counting those weak ones who have not yet reached the Jillian level, there are thousands of them. It seems, due to my own butterfly effect, the plot of the original work has been slightly shifted. 0.068. The false tide appears, missing the Captain Bai Ye. Advertise here. But, all this has nothing to do with yourself. Even if there's a big explosion outside, as long as it doesn't affect your normal life, just drink and become stronger. Bai Ye shook his head gently. No matter what is done outside, or what conspiracy there is, Gote 13 will naturally be there to support it. Feijun, on the other hand, looked up at Bai Ye, with a hint of wonder in his eyes. As expected of Master Bai Ye, even in this situation, surrounded by powerful enemies from the outside, he can still be so calm. At the same time, around Seireitei, countless Manos Grande roared crazily, pressing madly at the Seireitei from all directions. The huge Reiatsu was like a vast ocean, causing the entire Seireitei, Rukongai's earth, to tremble slightly. Ah, shoo, so many hollows. The residents of Rukongai were so frightened that they fled in a hurry. There were so many, such a huge number of voids. They are the only ones they have ever seen in their lives. If they run slower, they will turn into these empty nutrients that fill the emptiness. After all, most of the people who can live in Rukongai are ordinary summonings with no connections and weak strength. Facing these hollows, even the lowest hollows, 16 are waiting to be killed. Haha, kill it, devour it. Only blood can make me feel happy. South of Seireitei, the skinny Neutra was holding a Zanpakutō that looked like a huge scythe. His eyes were full of excitement when he looked at the civilians who were ravaged by the void and howling in the Rukongai. This time, their sneak attack was a great success. The hidden spiritual power fluctuation suddenly erupted when approaching Jing Lingting, catching Qing Lingting off guard. But, the power that is revealed now is only these Manos Grande and countless low-level voids. Neutra is still hiding his power. Only a strong man at the captain level can let him take action. If you can kill it, even if he returns to Hueco Mundo, he has done a great job, and maybe his ranking in Espada can be improved. Haha, Ulquiorra, I will accept your title as the fourth Espada. Neutra licked her lips, with a warlike light in her eyes. Looking at Jing Lingting, he was looking forward to which captain would fight him, or the famous number 1 genius, Bai Ye. Rukongai encountered such a situation. Soul Society will definitely send reinforcements. By then, it will be a shocking battle. At the same time, Seireitei was attacked by a large number of hollows from 4 directions, east, west, north and south. There were thousands of hollows in each direction. This is an extremely powerful force. If they are allowed to attack the Serenity Palace, the entire Serenity Palace will suffer heavy losses. Even if they are allowed to stay in Rukongai, if they are allowed to devour too many spiritual bodies, it will also affect the 3 realms. Balance. Gote 13 headquarters. The situation has already exploded. Busy figures can be seen everywhere, as well as Shinigami dressed in Black Death uniforms, gathering urgently. Hurry up. If you wait a second, countless civilians will die in Shu's mouth. Everyone looked nervous. From time to time, groups of Shinigami wearing Black Death-defying uniforms, led by their captain, would throw them in the direction of Rukongai. Under the orders of Captain Yamamoto, the entire Gote 13 took action, rushing towards Rukongai for reinforcements. At this time, first team building. Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni sat on the futon with an expressionless face, while Chojiro Sasaki beside him was busy dealing with various documents. After a while, Chojiro Sasaki was finally able to take a breath and looked at Yamamoto. Captain, if you take action personally, these hollows will not be the enemy of Ichigo. According to the investigation, the strongest of these virtual ones are only at the Ajuka's level, and ordinary captain level experts can deal with them, but there are just too many of them. Sasaki, don't be fooled by the appearance of things. Yamamoto shook his head and sighed softly. So much emptiness. And they are still besieging Seireitei from all directions. Someone is obviously pushing it behind the scenes. These superficial emptiness is definitely not the full strength of the person in the dark. Only when he fully understands the opponent's details can he, the captain, take action. Make sure nothing goes wrong. After all, if he leaves now, Seireitei will fall into an emptiness, even if Kyoraku Shunsui and Jishiro Yukitake, two of his former students, have been captains for hundreds of years. However, in his opinion, his two students are still a little immature and have not yet reached the time to hold up the banner of Soul Society. It would be nice if Bai Ye was here. A figure of a young man flashed through Yamamoto's mind, and he sighed softly. If Bai Ye is now in Gote 13, what else does he need to worry about? Now you can rush to Rukongai, full firepower, and have a blast. Bai Ye's ability is weirder than anyone else. Although he is still a third-level spiritual power, it is effortless for him to kill a strong person with a second-level spiritual power. Although he likes to drink as he pleases, he is not the kind of treacherous and evil person, and he has no record of attacking civilians. Even according to the survey, he is very good to the employees in Bai Ye Pavilion. Now the Bai Ye Pavilion he runs has become famous in Rukongai and has become a place where countless Rukongai residents aspire to work. He's there. Yamamoto couldn't even imagine how relieved he would be. Pity. Yamamoto shook his head. Bai Ye is not restricted, but joining Gote 13 is equivalent to being controlled by 783 Central 46 and himself. If he wants him to join, the first thing he should solve is this problem. And there must be enough benefits to impress Bai Ye. This kind of thing should be put aside later. Now my primary goal is to find out who is behind the manipulation of Rukongai's many virtual beings, and then find him out and kill him. There was a hint of chill in Yamamoto's old eyes. Original. The king of Hawako Mundo is Baragan, but based on Yamamoto's understanding of Baragan, he is a king trapped in Hawako Mundo and has not made any moves to expand his power. This time, Hawako Mundo's actions against Soul Society are obviously completely different from Baragan's previous behavior. What caused his temperament to change drastically? Or, what happened to Hawako Mundo that Soul Society doesn't know about? At the same time, Rukongai is now devastated, with civilians fleeing in panic everywhere, broken trees, crushed houses, and the ferocious-looking Manos Grande chasing behind the civilians, covered in bone armor. Behind the void, a woman with brown skin, green eyes, blonde hair, and a plump bust looked calm. Harabelle, she was responsible for the north of the Serenity Court. Compared to the other four directions, she caused the smallest casualties, but still caused a lot of damage to Rukongai. 0.069. Breaking the earth wind, Muguruma Kensai, join in. Flowering in full bloom from east to west, north and south. Advertise here. I don't know which captain will come. Harabelle's eyes narrowed slightly, and the Reiatsu on his body was silent, and it would only break out when he encountered a captain-level powerhouse. If it were veteran captains like Kyoraku Shunsui and Jishiro Yukitake, then she would have to cheer up. The void swarm is still wreaking havoc in Rukongai. Not long after. Destroy it into ashes. Cut off the wind. A deep male voice sounded, followed by blue wind marks all over the battlefield. The shoe that was under Jillian was cut in half at the slightest touch. Only Manos Grande who has reached Jillian's level can stop it. Subsequently, he has firm eyes, silver white hair, and obvious muscle lines all over his body. Enter Muguruma Kensai, who looks majestic and extremely difficult to deal with. To the west of Seireitei, Grimjow lurked in Manos Grande, his eyes filled with boredom. These residents of Rukongai made him have no desire to take action. Even among the Gote 13 members who came to support, there were no captain-level strong men. The only interesting thing is the little girl called Sui Feng by others. It's easy to kill Jillian-level Manos Grande without any effort, and he can even defeat Takumi Cass with a few moves. Give it time. Another captain-level warrior. But he doesn't attack women. Ha! Grimjow yawned boredly, but in the next moment, whoosh, was like a black lightning flashing across. Grimjow's pupils shrank violently and he hurriedly hid aside. But a little slower. Streams of blood flowed down Grimjow's cheeks. He squinted his eyes and looked at the beautiful girl not far away who was wearing a black close-fitting death suit with brown skin and a wild look. 0. Shihouin Yoruichi. Grimjow grinned. Although he doesn't attack women, he is an exception now. Through intelligence, Yoruichi is a woman who is at the top level even among the captains, Whitehits and Shunko, and can be considered a very good opponent. Yoruichi also looked at Grimjow with a solemn expression. Really? In these voids, there are still such powerful people lurking. Moreover, she could also confirm that the person in front of her had a weak Reiatsu and aura, and had a hollow bone mask on his face. But, when did Shu become so similar to humans? And although his aura is not as good as Vasto Lord, his strength has surpassed Ijuka's, making him a difficult opponent. Now, the entire Gote 13 has taken action. Muguruma Kensai is in charge of the North Gate, and she has come to the west. As for the other two directions, there are naturally other captains going. If there are such opponents on other sides, Yoruichi murmured softly, with a sense of urgency in his eyes. There is no time to think about these virtual forms. If the other captains are caught off guard and are attacked by Shu, the entire jingling court will suffer heavy losses. Think of this. Yoruichi looked at Grimmjow, and Reiatsu shot up into the sky, and the two were fighting together in an instant. Yoruichi's spiritual power. In Y Pavilion, Bai Ye raised his head and seemed to see the battlefield where Yoruichi was located through the building. Then he lay down and took a sip of wine. In his perception, although Yoruichi fought with all his strength, he was not in danger, and Reiatsu showed no signs of weakness. Anyway, whether it's Sister Wa, Yoruichi, or other friends of mine, they are all in the Serenity Garden. If there is danger, your Reiatsu can cover most of the Serenity Garden in an instant, and you can move there at any time. Although there is a constant war outside. However, Bai Ye doesn't have any worries. Now he has let go of Feijun. Although this Reiatsu amplifier is very useful, it is not enough. If a large amount of Reiatsu is injected into Hyejin's body for a long time, it will also consume her energy and cause damage to her body. She still needs to pay attention to the balance between work and rest. Master Bai Ye, ah. Feijun put the peeled grapes to Bai Ye's mouth, with a look of embarrassment on her face, and her green-white fingers were trembling. This is the first time she has served someone like this, and she has served Lord Bai Ye at such a close distance. Hiss. My brain is shaking. Excited. So excited. Now Bai Ye is simply an idol in the eyes of Feijun and many of his peers in Soul Society. After all, everything he has done is so earth-shattering and breathtaking. And there is such a powerful strength. Although countless nobles are secretive about Bai Ye, but the common people who are also born in Rukongai, especially many young people, regard Bai Ye as an object of study, looking forward to changing their destiny in the future. Being able to get along with her idol like this, Feijun felt a sense of unrealistic dream in her heart. Open black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket ding close black lens bracket. Congratulations to host. While enjoying Feijun's warm service while drinking, your spiritual power has exceeded 65% of the third level. Close black lens bracket. Very good. Just lie down and enjoy it, and your strength will increase. Bai Ye ate the grapes sent by Feijun in one gulp, feeling extremely satisfied. A fierce battle at the captain level broke out in the north and west of Seireitei. At this time, south of Jinglingting, the ground was covered with devastation. Apart from the ferocious roars of countless Manos Grande, Neutra looked at the man in front of him in boredom. He was a strong man with an explosive sea urchin head, carrying a Zanpakutō full of potholes, and a pink-haired little girl behind him. He had just discovered the weak-looking captain that Seireitei had come to support. He was about to go over and deal with him, but he didn't expect to be stopped by a man dressed as a Ronin who looked like he had a brain problem. Not far away, Urahara Kazuki, who has very yellow hair and looks very weak, is killing various Manos Grande with the members of the 12th Division, considering the lack of combat power of the 12th Division. Therefore, Captain Yamamoto also temporarily handed over the members of the 11th Division to Urahara Kazuki for command. So, now in the frontal battlefield, due to the addition of members of the 11th Squadron, there is not much pressure. Zhao Lihao, it's just. Urahara Kazuki looked at Neutra who was blocked by the Ronin not far away, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. As soon as I stepped out, I bumped into a monster. Especially the sea urchin-headed Ronin, even though he is far away, if the power in his body is activated, it will be enough to shock everyone. Stay away. Urahara Kazuki stayed away from the tit-for-tat two brothers. At the same time, Urahara Kazuki looked at Neutra and had a different thought in his heart. Could it be that someone else besides me had the results of that experiment? Soul Society, the only people who have the ability to study this matter are me and Kurotsuchi Mayuri. Thanks to seeing Neutra's Arankar. Now Urahara Kazuki's mind is full of doubts. If it wasn't Kurotsuchi Mayuri's research, then who was behind the scenes? They actually had their hands on Hueco Mundo. Could it be that the purpose of the mastermind behind the scenes is .070? The sky is full of wind and snow. Bai Ye takes action. Advertise here. Think of this. Even Urahara Kazuki took a breath of air in his heart. You must know that your own Hogyoku is not complete. If there is another also incomplete Hogyoku and the two are fused, it is likely to become a complete Hogyoku. Until then, with the power of Hogyoku, anyone can break the boundaries with Shinigami. If the mastermind behind the scenes has an ulterior motive. No, the mastermind behind the scenes must have an ulterior motive. The entire three realms will be in chaos, with huge consequences. It seems. It's time to get rid of that Hogyoku. Urahara Kazuki was thinking in his mind while mechanically killing the surrounding hollows. Right now there is a high probability that he has been targeted by the man behind the scenes. I wonder if that person is Hueco Mundo, or a traitor within Soul Society. At this time, Neutra looked at the man in front of him with a scar on his face, a sea urchin head, and dressed as a Ronin, with a ferocious smile on his lips. I'm still in a hurry, so I don't have time to fool around with you. Said. The huge scythe in his hand was raised high and slashed in the direction of Zaraki Kenpachi. Defeat this Ronin first and then deal with the weak yellow-haired captain. 337. Perfect. Zaraki Kenpachi, on the other hand, did not move at all, with an excited grin on his lips, and his whole body entered a fighting state, his beast-like eyes looking straight at Neutra not far away. Don't die so easily, otherwise I will be disappointed. Subsequently, he freed Reiatsu. Boom. Throughout the sky and earth, a bright yellow beam of light rose into the sky, shattering the clouds in the sky. The endless Reiatsu seemed to destroy everything. In the southern part of the Seireitei, there were sudden bursts of earth-shattering sounds of weapons clashing. At the same time, east of Seireitei, the boundless virtual tide squeezed into Rukongai, and a large number of buildings were shattered and turned into ruins. Zael Aporo looked at the bright yellow Reiatsu in the distance and nodded slightly. It seemed that Neutra had encountered a formidable opponent. Subsequently, he looked at the civilians running around him, with a cruel smile on his lips. Don't kill too much. Capture them all. There are so many Shinigami and spirits. If we bring them back to Hwako Mundo, many of my experimental progress can be accelerated. 17. Killing. It's just a means. My primary goal is still those precious experiments. Not far away, Y Pavilion stands there. The whole body is luxuriously decorated, and it is dozens of meters high. It stands out among the squares in the east of Rukongai. The quality of the spirits that can hide in the restaurant in the distance must be higher. Push it down, and then catch all the spirits for me. Zael Aporo looked at Y Pavilion and gave the order decisively. Suddenly, countless virtual tides behind him slowly moved in the direction of Y Pavilion. Ah, damn it, can anyone help? Where is Gote 13's support? At this time, thousands of Rukongai civilians were surrounded by countless Manos Grande and could not escape. At this time, their faces were full of panic. If they are caught by that strange man in Hwako Mundo, they may never come back. The reinforcements of Gote 13 have not arrived yet. If it is any later, they will be sent to Hwako Mundo through the Black Cavity. By then, even if the reinforcements arrive, it will be of no use. Woo woo woo, I don't want to die yet. Some people cried bitterly, while others were filled with despair. Others were looking at Y Pavilion not far away, with the last hope in their eyes. Legend. After Master Bai Ye was expelled from Jinglingting. During this period of time, they have been drinking and having fun in Y Pavilion without caring about worldly affairs. If Lord Bai Ye can take action, they may still have a way to survive. Now, in the Flower Night Pavilion, Bai Ye was lying lazily on the fur sofa. Feijun and other BGAA maids were serving him with all their heart and soul. They were singing and dancing in front of him, creating a peaceful scene. Only, the screams and roars from the outside world, and the trembling of the earth, made everyone in Y Pavilion feel a little worried. But as long as Bai Ye is still here, they will have a backbone and will not collapse. Bai Ye took a sip of wine. Poker face. The performance and whereabouts of the Manos Grandes in the outside world naturally cannot escape his induction, but now the Manos Grandes seem to have received some order, gradually pressing towards the Y Pavilion to suppress the bandits. It seemed as if it was going to crush Y Pavilion. This is a gift given to me by Sister Shihouin Yoruichi, how can I let you destroy it? Bai Ye murmured softly, patting Zanpakutō on his waist. A stream of spiritual power poured in crazily, and then connected the entire world. Before Manos Grande invaded, the drinkers who had been drinking in Y Pavilion were already mostly awake. Looking at the scene outside, their mouths opened in disbelief. Forehead. Is it so exciting outside in just a short period of time? But fortunately we are in the Flower Night picture. Someone patted their chest with lingering fear. Now. As long as Bai Ye is here, Flower Night Pavilion can be said to be the safest place in the entire Rukongai. If even Flower Night Pavilion collapses, no matter where they run, they will inevitably die. Not far from Y Pavilion. Quick. Faster. Hirako Shinji, who had yellow bangs and shark teeth, led a group of Shinigami in jet black death assault uniforms and rushed towards the direction of Kayi Pavilion. Now, it's time to race against time. Although he knows that Bai Ye is here, the master does whatever he wants. Whether he will take action or not is still a matter of debate. The civilians of Rukongai and the safety of Jinglingting still need their protection. And next to him, Aizen Sosuke was wearing square-rimmed glasses and looked a little serious at this time, following Hirako Shinji dutifully. But, right now, ding 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 ding. His vision suddenly dimmed, and there was suddenly a dense sound of gold and iron clashing all around. Hirako Shinji was shocked. Looking up, he saw that the entire sky had become completely black, with countless icy blue snowflakes falling from it. The temperature between the sky and the earth suddenly became low. Even as the captain, he couldn't help but feel a slight chill. Cold, so cold. Behind him, the other team members were already shivering with cold and their tongues were trembling. Under this natural power, even if they were the elite Shinigami of Soul Society, they could not resist it. This is the power of Bai Ye. Hirako Shinji murmured softly. And as far as he could see, as long as any virtual person touched the icy blue snowflakes, he would be penetrated and torn apart. Not even Jillian, or even Ijuka's level Manos Grande, could resist it. 071. Please stop drinking. Advertise here. Hirako Shinji, Aizen, and other squad members. They all looked at the wind and snow not far away, and every icy blue snowflake was like the sharpest blade. There was a blue wind whirlpool on it, exuding terrifying tearing power. The space was trembling, with dark and deep cracks opening, exuding terrifying tearing force. The Manos Grande howled wildly, but under the wind and snow, it seemed particularly shrill, and the bone armor on their bodies was easily pierced and destroyed. Just for a moment, the seemingly endless turbulent virtual tide was directly cut into half. No matter when I watch it, it's such a regret. Hirako Shinji breathed out a breath and stopped outside. If Captain Yamamoto's Ryujin Jaka is Soul Society's strongest attacker, Zanpakutō, and is unbeatable in direct attack, then Bai Ye's Zanpakutō is the Zanpakutō with the largest range in Soul Society and can produce terrifying lethality. It can be said to be invincible in group battles. If he waits until he masters Bankai, I am afraid, able to directly equal or even surpass Ryujin Jaka in attack. Even Mole City Kenpachi's ability to integrate with the entire Seireitei is inferior to Bai Ye in terms of lethality and range. If he wanted to, I'm afraid he could kill most of the creatures in the Quiet Spirit Garden in an instant. On the side, the other team members looked at the wind and snow in front of them, and they were extremely shocked. The awe of Bai Ye has reached a whole new level. No wonder. Even though Bai Ye has done so many shocking things, Central 46 can do nothing to him and still let him live well in the world. At this time, around Y Pavilion, the Manos Grande roared like crazy. Even though they had low intelligence, they still maintained the instinct of seeking advantages and avoiding disadvantages. The snowflakes in the air made them feel the breath of death. Some Shu even tore open the ground and hid in, but it still had no effect. The ice-blue snowflakes penetrated directly into the ground like tofu. Kill all the virtual ones. As time flows, there are only a few people who can still stand on the ground. Even the Ajuka's level Manos Grande was seriously injured. Bai Ye hasn't even appeared yet. Then the entire battlefield will be wiped out. Bai Ye, this is the power of Lord Bai Ye. The eyes of the civilians in Rukongai suddenly shone with light, and some shed tears of excitement as they looked at the flying snow in the sky. Heaven comes. Even though humans have not yet arrived, this kind of power that destroys heaven and earth has already come to the world. This is a great achievement that can be called a god. The civilians were full of hope, and they were even more in awe and respect for Bai Ye. It has to be Mr. Bai Ye. Compared with those noble masters, only Mr. Bai Ye can take care of the lives of little people like us. The civilians were full of emotion. If the nobles come to support, although he could fight Manos Grande, he would not consider the life and death of civilians like them at all. Even the aftermath of the battle could kill a large number of civilians. Although Gote 13 has better discipline, under this special situation, it is difficult to take into account the casualties among civilians. Only Bai Ye, a snowflake fell on a civilian, and the extremely sharp snowflake, which could cut through space, was slowly melting, without revealing even half of its lethality. But wherever civilians gather, it's just ordinary snow. As for those places where virtual beings gather, every snowflake is like the sharpest blade, harvesting the lives of large areas of virtual beings. This is hidden in the void. Zael Aporo's pupils shrank slightly. However, now he no longer has the cover of Shu Chao. How long has it been? Have you become a polished commander? Even he must be careful to avoid those dangerous space cracks, otherwise he will be seriously injured. Also, he heard the name, Bai Ye, from the crowd. Aizen's whisper rang in my mind. Haha, it seems that I really underestimated him. Zael Aporo raised his forehead and smiled bitterly. Who would have thought that the power that the #1 genius of Soul Society could unleash was even stronger than some veteran captains? However, Zael Aporo did not feel despair, because he could feel that the snow in the sky was only a second-class spiritual power at best, which was equivalent to his own strength. As long as it's against the non-crushing Reiatsu, then he still has a chance. After all, even a Spada of the same level will be affected by his Zanpakutō control effect. Please give me flowers. If Bai Ye can be controlled and brought back to Hueco Mundo. Think of this. Zael Aporo licked his lips, with a hint of greed in his eyes. With Bai Ye's current strength and potential, he is definitely his best experimental subject. Meet Bai Ye. Whether it is your own misfortune or luck, in the final analysis, you still have to fight it first. Y Pavilion. Bai Ye stood up, and the many Manos Grande in the outside world had been swept away. However, there is another powerful existence. Even though he was well hidden before, under the heavy wind and snow, in order to avoid the cracks in space, a trace of Reiatsu was revealed. Master Bai Ye, be careful. Feijun looked at Bai Ye with watery eyes. 0. Bai Ye just touched her head gently and walked outside. Not long after, everyone then saw Bai Ye appear directly outside Y Pavilion, holding a wine gourd, looking extremely cool in the wind and snow, with countless snowflakes gathering around him. It made him look like a king in the ice and snow. Zael Aporo, on the other hand, straightened his clothes. He cares a lot about his appearance and looks elegant at all times. This is also his pride as a scientist. He braced himself, looking at Bai Ye walking towards him with a knife. It turned out that, as Aizen said, even before the battle, this Bai Ye was holding a wine gourd in his hand and took a sip from time to time. Exclamation mark. Hey, you, stop drinking. Not good for health. Please stop drinking. Zael Aporo looked a little anxious, looking at Bai Ye as if he was typing some kind of artwork. If excessive alcohol intake affects Bai Ye's physical fitness, then this test product will no longer be perfect. Around. All the onlookers were stunned by the wind. What does it have to do with whether Bai Ye drinks or not? As for Bai Ye, he took another sip without caring, causing Aporo's distressed expression to twist. Hateful. After defeating you, I had to clean you thoroughly to ensure the purity of the test product. Aporo has a ferocious face. Said factory fiercely towards Bai Ye. .072. Hand rub Sero. Advertise here. Let me see the strength of the so-called number one genius in Soul Society. Aporo's expression was cold. The words just fell. He no longer hides his Reiatsu. Boom, a bright and thick beam of Reiatsu light shot up into the sky. The huge spiritual power spread crazily in all directions. Look at its power. Not inferior to some of the captain-level experts in Gote 13, even better. The civilians in Rukongai hurriedly hid in the distance. Even from a distance, they could feel the extremely powerful force. Their hearts seemed to be torn apart, and they were filled with suffocating pressure. This is the second-class spiritual power. Everyone's eyes narrowed slightly. And far away, Hiroko Shinji and others were blocked by the flying snow and could not move forward, but they also felt Aporo's Reiatsu. Hiroko Shinji's expression was solemn. The second-class spirit power of 203 is definitely a high-level person even in Hwako Mundo. Who is here this time? But there is Bai Ye there. He didn't have much worry in his heart. Instead, he looked at Aizen beside him, studying his expression, trying to find some clues on him. Although very illogical, but is this Hwako Mundo invasion related to Aizen Sosuke? Pity. Aizen is just like those ordinary team members, with a look of awe and peace of mind on his face when he felt Bai Ye take action, and he is still completing his tasks conscientiously. Now, in front of Y Pavilion, Bai Ye and Aporo confronted each other. Neither of them said a word, but their aura was increasing steadily. The atmosphere in the field was extremely solemn, and all the onlookers held their breaths, preparing to watch the next battle. Hwako Mundo. Zai Palace. In the huge conference hall. Sitting in a circle were members of Espada, Coyote Stark, Baragan, Ulquiorra. The remaining Espada who did not participate in the operation are all here. They are looking at the light curtain in front of them attentively. It is divided into 4 sections, each section is a battlefield. Well, Harabel is worthy of being the 3-blade handpicked by Lord Aizen. Even when faced with a captain, he is still a crushing figure. On the contrary, Neutra and Grimjow's battle was in a state of anxiety, and Aporo has not yet met a suitable opponent. While they were discussing where Aporo was, the sky was suddenly filled with wind and snow, and the endless virtual tide disappeared in a short time. In the Y Pavilion, a young man with a calm face and a wine gourd walked out. Heaven comes, is this his Zanpakutō ability? The old man transformed by Baragan stared at Bai Ye with his eyes wide open. Zanpakutō who can change the sky. It can be said that a Zanpakutō that cannot change the celestial phenomena is not necessarily weak, but a Zanpakutō that can change the celestial phenomena must be very strong. The thousands of voids that were killed are proof of his Zanpakutō ability. Young, loves to drink. This should be the Bai Ye that Mr. Aizen mentioned. From this look, he seems to have some strength. Yami on the side yawned. Pity. He usually ranks at the bottom of the Espada, and is too big to escape after being killed, so he stayed in the Hwako Mundo. Although Aporo is a bit underperformed, he is still capable. We don't need to worry too much. Let's watch the battle between the two of them first. Aronio said in a strange voice. I don't know, they were able to kill several captains this time. If Aporo can kill or capture Bai Ye, there is no doubt that he will be the biggest contributor to this battle. Baragan breathed out. Aizen's purpose was to eliminate the vitality of Soul Society, and if they killed Soul Society on the first day, I'm afraid Aizen would be shocked. Stop talking. Watch carefully, they are going to take action. Ulquiorra, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke up. Everyone followed his gaze and saw the two people at war with each other. In front of Y Pavilion. Aporo thought silently in his heart. Then, there was a burst of light in the hand, exuding huge energy fluctuations, and the surrounding light and shadow were distorted. This was a sign that the space could reach its limit. Boom. Aporo pushed fiercely with both hands, and a huge bright beam of light rushed towards Bai Ye. The surrounding light and shadow distorted the earth and shattered. Even from a distance, everyone could feel the heaven-destroying power contained in it. Sero. It is a virtual long-range attack method, and Aporo's Sero is even more terrifying with the blessing of his strength. If a captain-level strong man cannot defend himself, he will be seriously injured in an instant. Master Bai Ye. In Y Pavilion, Fei Zhen gently wiped her fists and looked at Bai Ye, who was shrouded in dazzling Sero. Only. Next moment, under everyone's gaze, Bai Ye's expression remained unchanged. Even if Sero swallowed him up, he just stretched out his hand quietly. Around. Space and time seemed to have stopped. Sero, who was originally charging, stopped the moment it came into contact with Bai Ye's palm. It originally covered the entire site, as if powerful energy was about to tear the sky apart. At this time, in Bai Ye's hands, it was extremely well behaved, turning into a dark and round sphere, and any energy fluctuations were isolated. Aporo's pupils contracted violently. I know the destructive power of my Sero best. Even Captain Yamamoto cannot block it with just a pair of palms. Why? Why Bai Ye? At the same time, the onlookers and the Espada members of Hwako Mundo were all wide-eyed, shocked by Bai Ye's terrifying strength. What kind of method is this? Baragan murmured softly, and even Coyote Stark, who had always been lying flat, sat up straight and looked straight at Bai Ye, the boy with a plain face. At the same time, in the distance of Y Pavilion, Hirako Shinji grinned, looking at Bai Ye rubbing Sero with his hands, a cold sweat dripping down his forehead. What kind of monster is this Bai Ye? Asterisk 1.9. Aizen also looked a little surprised. Although he had known Bai Ye's methods for a long time, seeing it with his own eyes now, even he felt extremely shocked. But, just under everyone's gaze, Bai Ye's figure disappeared in an instant, and huge waves overflowed, as if the building was about to collapse, and the Reiatsu like the sky and the earth were shattering filled the entire sky in an instant. Shikai. A full 40 times more blessing. Now Bai Ye, Reiatsu has overwhelmed all Shihouin's Reiatsu. Looking at the situation, it even shows a crushing situation. Disappeared. Zale Aporo was shocked, but before he could defend himself. Behind him, Bai Ye appeared without warning. The black energy ball in his hand emitted hot and terrifying fluctuations, as if it was about to explode at any time. 073 Ideographic, Zaraki Kenpachi. Advertise here. Boom. A huge tremor sounded. The black energy ball exploded violently in an instant. Where Zale Aporo was, a huge black pit appeared that was unknown how many meters deep. Aside, there were splashes of sand and gravel everywhere, the ground was cracked, and cracks as dense and deep as spider webs were spreading crazily in all directions. In the field, there was smoke and dust everywhere. Everyone watched with wide eyes, only to see Zale Aporo lying on the edge of the big hole with a pale face. His clothes were in tatters, and the bone armor on his body also had deep cracks. Ahem. He covered his mouth and coughed lightly, and there was still a trace of bright red blood in his hand. A pair of bloodshot eyes looked straight at Bai Ye not far away, and the overwhelming anger inside seemed to overflow. Bai Ye. Zale Aporo's words were cold. Just now, due to Bai Ye's sudden appearance, he couldn't react at all. He could only watch his Sero explode beside him. He couldn't guess how Bai Ye moved in space. He was as cautious as he had tried his best to avoid all the wind and snow, but he still couldn't resist Bai Ye's space movement. As for Bai Ye, he was standing in front of Y Pavilion with a lazy look on his face. He had teleported away from the center of the explosion as early as the moment of the explosion. Even though Zale Aporo is very cautious, he now has the ultimate flash goddess. Nothing can stop you. As long as Reiatsu covers it, you can move instantly. At the same time, Gote 13. First team building. Yamamoto Genryusai sat on the futon, feeling the murderous atmosphere from the outside world and the terrifying spiritual power of Bai Ye, and nodded with satisfaction. Although I don't know why Bai Ye took action. But as long as he starts taking action, the pressure on the entire Gote 13 staff will be reduced a lot. Hiraku, Jashiro, Shiba Ishin, Yunohana Retsu. You can go to support and catch all these voids that appear. Mr. Yamamoto looked serious. Yes, Captain Tien. The four of them responded in agreement. Then they rushed directly towards the outside of Jingling Court. Before, they existed as a reserve team. Now there is no danger in Jingling Court. Therefore, Yamamoto decided to send them all out to wipe out the void in the outside world as quickly as possible. At this time, in other directions of Seireitei, the fighting Espada members suddenly raised their heads and looked in the direction of Zale Aporo. In addition to Zale Aporo's Reiatsu, there is also a more powerful Reiatsu that suppresses Zale Aporo. Moreover, Sero's fluctuations just now were also a bit strange. Harabel gritted his teeth slightly. He didn't know who Zale Aporo had provoked. Was he Yunohana Retsu and Kyoraku Shunsui, the most powerful among the captains? This cannot be delayed any longer. Harabel thought to herself. He must provide support as soon as possible. Anyone can die, but the scientist Zale Aporo cannot die. If he dies in battle, it will be an extremely heavy loss for Hwako Mundo. Think of this. She looked at Muguruma Kensai not far away, whose clothes were torn and covered with bloodstains. He was dying but still insisting on fighting with her, and the captain with a starfish head and a short stature. Love Akawa. If he hadn't come to support him, he would have killed the captain long ago. Return to the sword, Queen Zhao. Harabel used her full strength. Quanshi, let's start fighting hard. Love Akawa spoke solemnly and supported Muguruma Kensai on the side. Then the two of them activated Bankai at the same time and fought fiercely with Harabel. To the west of Seireitei, Grimmjow and Yoruichi fought hard and separated. There was a hint of excitement in Grimmjow's eyes. Just today, he finally met an opponent who could make him go all out. Although she was a woman, her strength was no less than. Now, to know, in Hwako Mundo, Espada can't fight too much openly. Even if he wants to go to other Espada members to discuss, most of the time he will be rejected. But today, Yoruichi made him find the feeling of fighting that he had not seen for a long time. Yoruichi, who was also out of breath at this time, looked at Grimmjow and frowned deeply. The real combat power of this humanoid hollow has surpassed the Apika's level. And, she looked at the knife on Grimmjow's waist, full of doubts in her heart. Shoo, how could there be Zanpakutō? They all felt the two Reiatsu in the east at the same time. Those two Reiatsu that destroyed the world were all familiar to them. Someone's Reiatsu can actually suppress Zanpakutō. It seems that he is not very lucky. Grimmjow sneered. He originally disliked the sullen Zanpakutō, but now that Zanpakutō is frustrated, he is not nervous, but is full of laughter. Yoruichi naturally felt Bai Ye's Reiatsu, and his face was still calm and calm. Since Bai Ye took action, there was no need to worry about the safety of the eastern part of Jinglingting. Although I don't want to use it on women, you have become an opponent I recognize. Grimmjow did not support Zanpakutō's thoughts at all, but slowly drew out his Zanpakutō. Out of respect for you, and to enjoy this battle 430. Return to the blade. Kill him, Leopard King. Grimmjow's figure suddenly changed, and the muscles on his body became stronger and stronger. The whole person seemed to be crawling on the ground, like a cheetah in the jungle, exuding an extremely fierce breath. The aura on his body is rising. Yoruichi also cheered up, and with a boom sound, his clothes exploded at his shoulders, and extremely rich Reiatsu burst out from it. Instant coax is fully activated. And the southern part of Seireitei. Ding 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 ding. There was a sound like iron being struck, and a skinny Aaronkar carrying two huge scythes and a ferocious-looking man with an exploding sea urchin head, dressed like a ronin, fought. The huge spiritual power spread crazily in all directions. Even some low-level hollows were torn apart in an instant after coming into contact with the aftermath of the fight between the two. Stab. Zaraki added the Zanpakutō and opened a huge crack in Noitra's chest. Blood sprayed out and turned into a fountain in the air. Noitra's body fell softly to the ground, and her eyes looked at Zaraki Kenpachi unwillingly and angrily. What's the situation? This man who suddenly appeared. Now, he no longer has any contempt for Zaraki Kenpachi, but is full of surprise, confusion and anger. 0.074. The king of flat chops, Bai Ye is my main dish. Advertise here. This person. It's actually more powerful than some captains. Even though he has no other special abilities, every seemingly ordinary slash carries huge Reiatsu and power, which makes him breathless. It can be said, this man is truly the king of flat chops. Jinglingting, when did such a strong person appear? Noitra murmured in disbelief. As for Zaraki Kenpachi, looking at Noitra who fell to the ground and lost the ability to fight, he put away the knife with some lack of interest. He would not attack the enemy who had lost his fighting spirit. Hey, boring. It seems that it's time to go to Jinglingting. Zaraki Kenpachi sighed and looked at Kusajishi Yakiru behind him. During this time, after letting Bachanliu wander with him all this time, it's time to live a stable life in Jinglingting. After all, he has challenged the strong men in Rukongai over and over again, but now there is no strong man who makes him want to take action. Maybe fighting those captain-level strong men in the Quiet Spirit Court can make him feel a little happy. Only, right now, in the distance, in the east of Seireitei, two extremely powerful spiritual powers suddenly erupted. Looking at their levels, they were both at the level of second-class spiritual powers. That is, Zaraki Kenpachi's pupils shrank slightly, and the Zanpakutō in his hand tightened a little. In his feelings, one of the spiritual powers is very familiar, as if it has been seen before. The other spiritual power was obviously empty, but under the pressure of that familiar spiritual power, it seemed to be losing ground and vulnerable. Aiken, is that the boy we met some time ago? Kusajishi Yakiru said from the side. Zaraki Kenpachi also reacted, and a young man with black broken hair and a handsome face flashed in his mind. He once killed the Yasuka's level Manos Grande with 18 or 10 swords. But think of it here. Zaraki Kenpachi was even more shocked. That young man, in such a short period of time, actually grew to this point. Quote. He has been pursuing the battle and does not care about the news about Jinglingting and Soul Society. The residents of Rukongai are also very secretive when they see him and do not take the initiative to talk to him at all. As a result, Zaraki Kenpachi still doesn't understand what Bai Ye did before. But it's okay. He should be able to withstand my blade now. Zaraki Kenpachi grinned. For him, Noitra was just a small fight. That boy, the group is his main dish. Should he go to the Gote 3 team first to cause a scene, or should he go and have a spar with that boy first? It's really confusing. Yakiru, what do you think? Zaraki Kenpachi asked Kusajishi Yakiru's opinion casually. Noitra was lying on the ground, watching Zaraki Kenpachi not paying attention to him at all. Strong dissatisfaction appeared in his eyes, full of the humiliation of being slighted. He struggled to his feet. He picked up his scythe and watched Zaraki Kenpachi regain his fighting spirit, return to the blade. Pray, holy crying mantis. Here, immediately filled with rich Reiatsu. Zaraki Kenpachi looked at Noitra who had returned to the sword and cheered up. It seems that you are not as miserable as you were before, but this is what makes it interesting. And not far away, Urahara Kazuki was watching all this. In his observation, the man dressed like a ronin was full of mystery, and his whole body was full of heart-stopping power. However, the operation of these powers is somewhat sluggish, as if they are sealed by something. The monsters in Soul Society are really one after another. Urahara Kazuki held his forehead helplessly. The previous Bai Ye made the entire Soul Society restless, and now there is such a mysterious ronin. Now, how could he not know that the Ronin in front of him is Zaraki Kenpachi, who was famous in Rukongai? If you know Hana Retsu was the strongest person born in Rukongai thousands of years ago. So now, the title of the strongest Rukongai will only arise between Bai Ye and Zaraki Kenpachi. Fighting and killing is not suitable for me. The most important thing now is who developed Hogyoku. Urahara Kazuki was able to determine that Noitra was transformed into Arankar by Hogyoku's power. My Hogyoku has been properly placed and is absolutely impossible to be stolen. In this way, there is definitely another highly intelligent being lurking in Soul Society who is plotting to subvert Soul Society B. After he studied Hogyoku, he realized that Hogyoku's power was enough to subvert the entire world and even threaten the rule of the Spirit King, so he sealed it away and never used it again. And the other person, no matter who he is, has already had a different intention in his heart. If he is allowed to do anything wrong. Think of this. Urahara Kazuki couldn't help but feel a sense of urgency in his heart. It seemed that Hogyoku needed to be moved to a safer place. Just when the four sides were fighting. At this time. In front of Y Pavilion. Haweko Mundo Espada, Rukongai Civilian, Flower Knight Pavilion, Fei Gen, Hiroko, Aizen. All eyes are focused here. Bai Ye's strange and unpredictable power simply dazzled all of them, and they couldn't help but have questions in their hearts, that is Bai Ye really a Shinigami species? The power he can exert has obviously exceeded the limits of the Shinigami species. Teleportation, Nameless Seal, third-level spiritual power can be comparable to the power of second-level spiritual power. Now, Bai Ye raised his hand again. The Reiatsu around him was fluctuating wildly. He was not chanting at all, and countless dense light cone-like energy bodies appeared in the sky, each of which emitted huge energy fluctuations. Boom. The energy cone shot fiercely towards Zael Aporo, who was not far away. Zael Aporo, who had just stood up to take a breath, was bombarded by countless light cones and fled in all directions. Occasionally, the light cones were fierce, please promise, hit him hard on the body, causing his bone armor to break into large pieces. This is Hado's 91 Senju Joushin Taipao. Watching the battle, Hiroko Shinji's pupils shrank slightly. This is an extremely high-level Hado, possessing the level of destructive power of Captain Zanpakutō Bankai. Didn't expect to make it. Bai Ye actually cultivated Kidō to such an extent. Moreover, he completely gave up singing, but his power has not been reduced, and it is even twice as powerful as the full form of the Senju Joushin Taipao. Hiroko Shinji felt numb in his heart. Generally speaking, only with a deep understanding of Kidō can one have the ability to perform without chanting. Moreover, if it is performed without chanting, Kidō's power will be reduced a lot. But this Bai Ye not only has weird abilities, but even the basic skills of Shinigami, slaying fists and walking ghosts are so solid that he has reached the state of abandoning chanting, and even his power has not been reduced at all for some unknown reason. 075. Sip, you evil concubine. Advertise here. Aizen on the side. He also showed a surprised look. As a Kidō master, he naturally knows how difficult it is to achieve this step. Even he himself cannot perform the chant-free Kidō without any loss of power. Let me see your limit. Aizen looked at Bai Ye fighting in the field with an interesting smile. Regarding Zael Aporo's safety, he didn't have the slightest worry. Compared to a dispensable subordinate. Now he is obviously more interested in Bai Ye. Bah. At this time, in front of Y Pavilion. Zael Aporo suddenly spat out the gravel that splashed into his mouth. His whole body was covered in bruises and he looked extremely miserable. He looked at Bai Ye with angry eyes, and his teeth were about to break. Just now, he was so seriously injured without even touching Bai Ye's body, and he was always in a passive state of being beaten. Hateful. Zael Aporo stood up tremblingly. Bai Ye's Senju Joushin Tai cannon almost killed him half of his life just now. Now even the smallest movement makes him feel pain everywhere in his body. If Bai Ye is allowed to continue to consume him, he may really become the only 067 Espada who was killed without even touching the enemy's body. Think of this. Zael Aporo shook his head suddenly, he absolutely could not accept such consequences. He finally pulled out the Zanpakutō. Return to the blade. Sip. Yin Yin Ji. Boom. An extremely powerful pressure suddenly filled the world, and even Bai Ye's thick Reiatsu was pushed away a little. Even Bai Ye could not completely block the power of Zael Aporo's return sword. When he was about to release it, Zael Aporo's eyes turned cold, and he swallowed the whole Zanpakutō as if performing a sword-swallowing show. Then the whole body expanded and exploded, showing a new posture. After liberation, his lower body turned into tentacles, and then the tentacles condensed and disappeared, turning into feet in the hem of his clothes. 4 wings grew out of his back, and his eyes had colorful lines. The whole person has changed from a human-like shape to a beast-like shape. This is also Arankar's initial form, which can unleash all of his power to the ultimate. And not far away, he had a lazy look on his face, and he even thought about taking a sip of wine when Salo died. BIDB. Zael Aporo. The meaning of the name is, playing in the palm of the hand, and he is also a mad scientist like Kuretsuchi Mayuri. Arankar, the blade of the field. Strong, conceited, arrogant. His Zanpakutō evil concubine is an extremely powerful control-type Zanpakutō. Under the research of Zanpakutō, she has many weird and unpredictable abilities. Conception notice. Insert the evil concubine into the other person's body to lay eggs. Copy clone. Copy the exact same opponent, both sides have almost equal strength. Domination doll. Use a large amount of juice to coat the opponent, thereby creating a doll that is exactly the same as the opponent, serving as a controller to dominate the opponent's 5 senses. As long as the doll is injured, the opponent who is the dominated object will also receive the same injury. Very powerful ability. Bai Ye affirmed, but this kind of control ability had no effect on him. Haha, it's useless for you to cry and beg for mercy now. Zanpakutō felt the power everywhere in his body, as well as the power of the evil concubine. Looking at Bai Ye, his eyes were full of chill. He had already imagined Bai Ye twisting in pain, struggling and wailing under his attack. Go, evil concubine, he shouted in his heart. The twisted tentacles cut through the air one by one, setting off a harsh whistle in the air, and sprinted towards Bai Ye. But Bai Ye had no expression on his face. Facing this powerful offensive, his body didn't even move when the evil concubine's tentacles reached a position within 10 meters of him. It was like encountering the sharpest weapon in the world, and like a snowball falling into a frying pan. It was instantly cut into countless pieces by an incomparable mysterious force, turning into fine powder and scattering in the wind. Zanpakutō looked at the unharmed Bai Ye, and his pupils shrank violently. He knew the ability of his evil concubine best. If Bai Ye tried his best to block it, there would still be logic at all. But Bai Ye didn't move a step. Just standing there blocked all the offensive of his evil concubine. How can this be? Think of this. Zanpakutō's expression was a little distorted, and he moved towards Bai Ye without believing in evil. The evil concubine spit out a lot of juice, trying to wrap Bai Ye. But the juice that used to go well was directly evaporated when it came near Bai Ye, leaving no trace. Off the field, everyone stared at Zanpakutō, who was jumping anxiously with their eyes wide open, and silently paid him a silent tribute in their hearts. Zanpakutō returned to the sword, and they thought they could come up with some new tricks, but even if he returned to the sword and his strength improved, he would still be like a clown in front of Bai Ye, and he would not be able to cause any harm to him. This is impossible. Hawako Mundo. Espada sat around the round table, watching Zanpakutō's performance. Baragan's eyes almost popped out. To know, long before Aizen appeared, he knew Zanpakutō and asked him to serve as the chief scientist of Zai Palace. Baragan knew his abilities best. Even he would be caught off guard. However, the function of the evil concubine has no effect on Bai Ye at all. It seems that Bai Ye's mysterious ability is far from being revealed. On the side, Coyote Stark sighed softly. Even though Bai Ye is so young. But no one present at Espada expressed contempt for him, and they all remembered him in the back of their minds. He was the enemy in the future and must be dealt with seriously. In the field, Zanpakutō's expression became increasingly distorted, and at the same time, he felt the emotions of panic and fear that he had not seen for a long time. Even when facing Aizen, he was not under so much pressure. After all, Aizen-sama is invincible with Reiatsu, and can easily crush everything with his own Reiatsu. However, the best thing about Bai Ye is that you don't know what his abilities are. This is completely derived from the abilities of Shinigami and Shu. If we say, Shinigami's Zanpakutō can derive various abilities, even rules-based abilities, but Bai Ye just now can not only teleport, but also instant Kidō, blocking everything. What Zanpakutō can have so many derivative abilities? What's more, Bai Ye's Zanpakutō has such a large range and can wipe out the entire virtual tide in an instant, which is already very pervert. 0.076. Cut with one sword. Researching Kyoka Suigetsu Bankai. Advertise here. At this time, Bai Ye looked at Zanpakutō and his various clown performances of trying to control himself. His face was expressionless, and he just took a sip of wine. Subsequently, the ice blue blade covered with cyan patterns made a soft moan when blown by the breeze. Whoosh! Bai Ye disappeared directly and appeared behind Zanpakutō in an instant. The long knife in his hand emitted a dazzling cold light and stabbed Zanpakutō fiercely. I saw his Reiatsu surging, endless Reiatsu filling the air, and the whole world seemed to be trembling crazily under this pressure. At the same time, the blade cut through the space, and the sharpness of the blade made the space emit a crunching sound that was about to break into pieces. Under everyone's gaze, the arc of the blade formed a deep black mark in the air. Those are traces of space fragmentation. Nothing can stop it. What? Zanpakutō suddenly turned his head and blocked the evil concubine's tentacles behind his back, trying his best to defend himself. Unfortunately, stab. The sound of flesh and blood being separated rang in his ears. No matter how hard he tried to defend himself, Bai Ye's blade did not lag behind at all. The surrounding space emitted a terrifying tearing force, wiping out everything in front of him. Bai Ye's blade plunged straight into Zanpakutō's chest. Suddenly, countless icy blue snowflakes were raging crazily in Zanpakutō's body, mixed with the destruction of the cyan whirlwind, and the look in his eyes quickly dissipated at a speed visible to the naked eye. Not long after, bang! Zanpakutō's body fell limply to the ground. Espada number 8, the chief scientist of Hawako Mundo, died in this Rukongai like this. Bai Ye put Lu Feng Weishui away, his face regained its lazy look, and walked towards Wai Pavilion with a knife in one hand and a wine gourd in hand. Although in the Seireitei, besides here, there are other battle groups called Reiatsu that are wreaking havoc, Bai Ye has no idea of taking action. With the strength of Gote 13, it is easy to deal with those Manos Grande. And, this time, the only Espada who came was a Vasto Lord level Manos Grande, and the water energy she exuded when she returned to the sword made Bai Ye understand her identity. The third Espada is terrifying. After this battle, Bai Ye also understood that Hueco Mundo may have entered Aizen's rule now, and these virtual invasions were also ordered by Aizen. But, as long as it doesn't affect your daily life, then let them do whatever they want. Aizen's existence and future betrayal were not a disadvantage to Soul Society. Instead, he killed Central 46 and changed the atmosphere of the entire Soul Society. Unite and face a common enemy. This time he took action against Zale Aporo only because he threatened the safety of Wai Pavilion and had inappropriate thoughts about himself. Not far away, the civilians from Rukongai watched Bai Ye leave and return to Wai Pavilion, their mouths wide open, not knowing what to say. Stiff. Petrochemical. My scalp is numb. It wasn't until a few minutes later that anyone let out a sigh. As expected of Master Bai Ye, they can all feel that a large amount of dense Reiatsu is emitting from the other three directions of the Seireitei, and crazy fighting is still going on. The voids in those places have not been eliminated. But, with only Bai Ye here, all the false tides will be wiped out. Moreover, that second-class spiritual power, the humanoid Manos Grande, who is comparable to an elite captain, is like a child in Bai Ye's hands, unable to make any waves. This is the top genius of my Soul Society. The civilians looked at Bai Ye and sighed in their hearts. As for the genius Kuchiki Shanghai from hundreds of years ago, compared with Bai Ye, he was not even worthy of carrying shoes. Bai Ye alone is comparable to an entire division, and he can even clear the virtual tide faster than all the divisions in other directions combined. If Yamamoto Genryu Sai, the strongest Shinigami in millennia, is the soul of the entire Gote 13 and possesses power comparable to that of the entire Gote 13. So, now Bai Ye, at such a young age, has power comparable to half a Gote 13. To know, this still ignores Bai Ye's age. Even Captain Yamamoto, at Bai Ye's age, only has captain-level combat power at best. In this way, Bai Ye's potential has even surpassed Captain Yamamoto. Think of this. Everyone took a breath of cold air. Looking at the back of Bai Ye, they seemed to see Soul Society again, a dazzling new star rising slowly. Please give me flowers. Not far away. After the battle, Hiroko Shinji also stood there blankly. My scalp felt a little numb, and my mouth opened wide, as if I could fit an egg into it. Behind him, there were many Gote 13, Shinigami wearing a black Death Tyrant outfit, the expression on his face was even more exaggerated than him. What they just saw was like a magical skill. Bai Ye was like chopping melons and vegetables, directly clearing away the spreading virtual tide. He only relied on his own strength. He is really going to be heaven-defying. Hiroko Shinji's mouth felt bitter. There is a feeling in my heart that after so many years of practice, I have cultivated the dog. Point 0. You know, he has been the captain for hundreds of years, but Yu Yi is not more than 20 years old now, and the combat power he has shown is a crushing force for him. And, Bai Ye's ability is extremely restrained against him. Even the Zanpakutō, reverse caress, that he has always been proud of is just an illusion-type Zanpakutō, which relies on disrupting the opponent's five senses. But, Bai Ye now, after his observation just now, has a high probability of having the ability to ignore control. This is very scary. A young genius, comparable to a strong man half a Gote 13, not only has amazing lethality and elusiveness, but he is also immune to control. Who can withstand this? There is no doubt that the appearance of Bai Ye is a nightmare for all enemies. Aside, Aizen Sosuke also lost his strategizing look on his face, and a sense of urgency arose in his heart that he hadn't seen for a long time. He only believes in his own power and puts most of his energy into improving Reiatsu and studying Kido. As long as your Reiatsu is strong enough. Even though Kyoka Suigetsu can only Shikai, he is still ranked among the strongest Zanpakutō in Soul Society. But, the appearance of Bai Ye dispelled this thought in his mind. I'm afraid, even Kyoka Suigetsu will have no effect on Bai Ye. Aizen adjusted his glasses and murmured softly in his heart. The appearance of Bai Ye. The arrogance towards Soul Society in his heart disappeared a little. Perhaps, he also needs to spend some energy to study Kyoka Suigetsu's Bankai. Point 077. Hueco Mundo shakes, Espada retreats. Advertise here. Now, Zai Palace. The Espada members sitting in a circle were as dead as stone. Everyone looked at the body of Zale Aporo on the ground, with a look of disbelief on their faces. Just die like that. Aroniello's bloated body twisted, and his huge eyes almost popped out. You know, Zale Aporo was ranked higher than him, but he still died in the hands of Bai Ye so easily. Isn't this an explanation? If he fights Bai Ye, will he be killed like Zale Aporo, just like chopping melons and vegetables? Just think about it. It made him feel cold all over, and he had a feeling of sadness in his heart. Aside, Yami looked at Bai Ye with fear. Although Ulquiorra has no unnecessary feelings, 053, also included Bai Ye among the enemies that cannot be provoked. Other people, even the top experts in Espada such as Baragan and Coyote Stark were speechless for a long time when they saw Szayelaporro being easily killed by Bai Ye. No doubt, Bai Ye's sharp blade is enough to threaten their lives. Even though they each have their own strengths and are confident in their abilities, seeing that Bai Ye is not only free of control but also mysterious, they can't help but feel deep fear in their hearts. As long as Bai Ye is still in Soul Society, it will be an absolute unstable factor. I'm afraid that only Master Aizen can take action personally to eliminate Bai Ye's threats. Maybe, Master Aizen is already thinking about ways to deal with Bai Ye, so we don't need to worry too much. Baragan let out a breath. Although he didn't know what Aizen's purpose was, the only thing he knew clearly was that Aizen was definitely a member of Soul Society and would definitely do something detrimental to Soul Society in the future. And these people are just Aizen's thugs at best, and Aizen will not arrange a situation of absolute death for them. For the super standard combat power of Yamamoto Genryusai and now Bai Ye, it is definitely not something they can consider now. The response of these two people still depends on Aizen's history. Thinking of the power Aizen showed in Zai Palace before. Even Baragan is afraid. If Aizen and these two people face each other, who will be stronger and weaker? At the same time, other battlefields in Seireitei. Everyone felt it. The eastern part of the Quiet Spirit Garden, belonging to Szayelaporro, and the Reiatsu that filled the sky disappeared directly. The information conveyed in it is naturally self-evident. Harabel wore a bone armor and controlled the water element in the sky, defeating the combined forces of Muguruma Kensai and Love Akawa. Although these two people are very tenacious and cooperate tacitly, no one has died yet, but it is certain that they were seriously injured. If Gote 13 does not come to support, the two of them will not be able to hold on for long. But, while she was fighting hard, Reiatsu belonging to Szayelaporro just disappeared. What's going on? Is there some unparalleled strong man hiding in Rukongai? Harabel's pupils shrank slightly. The death of Szayelaporro is a serious blow to Hueco Mundo. After all, he is the most authoritative scientist in Hueco Mundo now, completely different from those idiots who were killed by Song and Jin. As for Muguruma Kensai and Love Akawa, although they were panting at this time and their bodies were covered with sweat, blood, and mud, they looked extremely embarrassed. But Muguruma Kensai still laughed loudly, with a very excited expression. Although I haven't met Bai Ye a few times, he did a really good job in this battle. Bai Ye has shot many times in the Serenity Court before, so Muguruma Kensai and Love Akawa can naturally recognize Bai Ye's Reiatsu. At this time, Reiatsu, who was feeling the eastern part of the Seireitei, naturally easily analyzed the origin and turn of events. Bai Ye. Harabel looked slightly startled when she heard the name. Master Aizen once mentioned Bai Ye, but isn't he the number one genius in Soul Society? He just has great potential. Did not expect. His combat power was actually so terrifying. In such a short time, he killed Szayelaporro directly. At the same time, in the distance, there is a more powerful pressure, approaching quickly in this direction. Judging from its power, it is clearly a second-class spiritual power. Muguruma Kensai and Love Akawa both had a smile on their faces. It seems that support from Gote 13 has arrived. Harabel, on the other hand, had a solemn look on his face. It turned out to be Kyoraku Shunsui, Yunohana Retsu and other powerful captains. We can't delay it any longer. Harabel made up his mind in an instant. Retreat. Must retreat immediately, if it were to match the power of the entire Gote 13. Not only Szayelaporro, but also herself and other Espada members will suffer here. Think of this. Harabel gradually withdrew the power of Gui Ren and rushed towards the planned retreat point. Love Akawa and Muguruma Kensai did not pursue either. They were now running out of gas and had no energy left to pursue such a powerful opponent. Look at the number on her body, 3. Could it be that there are at least 2 more powerful beings in Hueco Mundo than her? Muguruma Kensai and the two communicated, feeling a little wary in their hearts. You know, if the two of them had not joined forces and were just one-on-one, Harabel would have been killed long ago. Although the combat power she showed was not as good as the captain. But he is not inferior to veteran captains such as Kyoraku Shunsui. At the same time, on the other side, Grimmjow sensed the demise of Szayelaporro, and the movements in his hands were a little fuller. Especially the coercion of Harabel not far away running towards the agreed retreat point made him understand that the 1.5 operation had failed. They need to evacuate as soon as possible. Although the battle with you was very enjoyable, I still have to leave. If there is a chance, we will continue to fight in the future. Grimmjow looked at Yoruichi and grinned. The two of them had just been fighting each other, but there was no clear winner. Unfortunately, time waits for no one now. Although he is eager to fight, he is not stupid. Harabel has withdrawn. If he stays alone in the Quiet Spirit Courtyard, he will be attacked by the entire Soul Society. Even 10 lives are not enough to kill him. Think of this. He dodged and used the sound to leave the place directly. As for the remaining Shu Tide, more than half of them had been killed. Grimmjow did not care about them. Anyway, Hueco Mundo lacks everything except these hypocrites with low IQ, who mostly rely on instinct to act, so if you give up, you will give up. .078. The King of Flat Cuts. Death of Neutra. Advertise here. Not far away. Yoruichi did not answer, but looked at Grimmjow solemnly. His combat prowess was already at the level of a captain. As Shihouin's heir, she had to think more. If the hollows in Hueco Mundo have the opportunity of this hollow, they can transform into human form and their strength is greatly enhanced, then they will definitely be a fatal threat to Soul Society. After all in all, Soul Society's combat strength is only Gote 13, and Kidō is an organized army. Seireitei and the civilians in Rukongai have no fighting power, but Hueco Mundo, the hollows are endless, even the lowest hollows have a certain amount of power. However, his code name is 6. He must be a rare strong man even in Hueco Mundo. Yoruichi felt relieved a little. She did not stop Grimmjow from leaving. After all, the two were evenly matched and there was nothing anyone could do about the other. Subsequently, she looked into the distance, in the direction of Y Pavilion. Just now, she felt the two Reiatsu from Y Pavilion, and understood that if Bai Ye hadn't killed a member of Hueco Mundo so neatly, they would not have retreated so decisively. In this way, day and night are equivalent to making great achievements in Hueco Mundo. There was a sigh in Yoruichi's eyes. It seems that Bai Ye was still his younger brother some time ago, but in just a short period of time, he has grown to such an extent. It feels like a small sapling has grown into a towering tree in just one night. It makes people feel amazed. And south of Jingalingting, cracks, scorched earth, and traces of the battle are everywhere. Urahara Kazuki led the members of Division 12 and Division 3 to kill Manos Grande. Subsequently, he looked at the battlefield of Zaraki Kenpachi and Neutra not far away with surprised eyes. The scene in the field made him take a breath of cold air. It seemed that from today on, another powerful man would appear in the Seireitei. Only, other people will naturally take action when it comes to killings. Regarding the Hogyoku incident, I still need to plan thoroughly. Urahara Kazuki thought to himself. So he didn't stay here too long and walked directly towards Seireitei in his laboratory. He had no intention of communicating with Zaraki Kenpachi. After all, after the observation just now, he already knew that he was a madman who regarded fighting as his life. If you get entangled with him, it will be a lot of trouble. Now, in the battlefield, Neutra lay softly on the ground, her eyes filled with darkness. But he was not desperate, instead he was filled with a sense of peace of mind after a fun battle. Just now, he had used all his strength and even released his sword, but he was still no match for the sea urchin-headed man in front of him. Pervert. It's really too pervert. If there is a title for the king of flat cuts, then it must belong to this man. At the same time, he also felt the death of Zael Aporo in the distance. Neutra's eyes widened slightly. I didn't expect that you died faster than me. Could it be that you met a stronger person? Hey, it's a pity that I have already met this sea urchin-headed man, otherwise I really want to fight with that mysterious strong man. Neutra's vision became increasingly blurry, and then gradually fell silent. As for Zaraki Kenpachi, he casually held the jagged Zanpakutō on his shoulders and nodded slightly to Neutra. Just after fighting with Neutra, he has admitted that Neutra is a pretty good opponent and is not afraid of death at all. Even though he had seriously injured him and did not want to continue to attack, Neutra still used his last strength to fight with him. And now, due to severe injuries, Neutra's life has also come to an end. Watching Neutra take her last breath. Subsequently, Zaraki Kenpachi's beast-like eyes stared in the direction of Kayi Pavilion. The powerful fluctuations coming from there made the fighting spirit in his heart even more swollen. Y Pavilion. The direction where Bai Ye is. Just now, Bai Ye must have taken action himself. The one who can attack Seireitei Dongfang must be a strong man of the same level as Neutra, but for such a strong man, Bai Ye actually kills him faster than himself. Doesn't this mean that Bai Ye has hope of defeating himself? Will he be able to enjoy a more hearty battle? Think of this. The anticipation in Zaraki Kenpachi's beast-like eyes grew stronger. Ajien, you have also been seriously injured this time. If you want to continue fighting, you should rest for a few days. On the side, Kusajishi Yakiru simply bandaged Zaraki Kenpachi's wound. Just in order to enjoy the fun of the battle, Zaraki Kenpachi did not defend himself at all, but instead fought with Neutra to attack each other. Otherwise, with his crushing Reiatsu and powerful, flat slash, technique, even if he killed Neutra, he wouldn't need to suffer such serious injuries. And, Kusajishi Yakiru, who knew Zaraki Kenpachi very well, naturally saw his desire to continue fighting, so he persuaded him. Zaraki Kenpachi looked at Kusajishi Yakiru and nodded slightly. When 791st met her, she was still a child, although she is still a child now. Shen workers depended on each other in Rukongai. Although Kusajishi Yakiru is annoying sometimes and is still a road fool like himself, he already regards Kusajishi Yakiru as an important family member. I will still listen to her words. Then take a few days rest. Zaraki Kenpachi sat on the ground and looked at the sky in the distance. Hundreds of years ago, in Rukongai, that woman, Kenpachi of that generation, brought herself the joy of battle. And hundreds of years later, will I finally find the same feeling as before? Time flies. With the virtual tide and Haribel, Grimmjow completely evacuated, leaving behind the two bodies of Espada number 8 Zael Aporo and Espada no. 5 Neutra. This time Hueco Mundo's invasion ended in total failure. Although Yamamoto Genryusai later wanted to personally take action and annihilate all the power of Hwako Mundo in Soul Society, Harabel and Grimmjow retreated quite decisively. He entered the Black Cavity without hesitation. Even Yamamoto Genryusai, the strongest Shinigami in Soul Society, has no choice. Now, the entire Soul Society was also immersed in an atmosphere of joy and victory. 0.079. White hits Forbidden Technique, One Punch Man. Advertise here. Victory in this battle is really not easy. Sure enough, Gote 13's power is the strongest in Soul Society. Everyone was talking a lot. After this period of time. Even though most people didn't see the original battle with their own eyes, they heard about many details. At first, it was Gote 13 who sent several captains to support and temporarily stabilize the situation. Later, several more captains were sent to defeat all Hwako Mundo's people. Let the remnants of Hwako Mundo flee in panic. It can be said. Although many people are usually in awe of Gote 13, some radicals even call Gote 13 the noble eagle dog. But, when Soul Society really encountered a crisis, Gote 13 stood up. Why? You can't say that. I do not deny the contribution of Gote 13, but this time, in addition to Gote 13, there are two other names that cannot be ignored. Someone added. Bai Ye, Zaraki Kenpachi. Someone whispered softly. Thinking of the two most powerful people in this battle. That's for sure. Although Gote 13 was so powerful, they didn't even kill a single strong person in Hwako Mundo. However, Bai Ye and Zaraki Kenpachi directly killed the two admirals of Hwako Mundo. Especially Bai Ye, when facing Hwako Mundo's powerful man who was comparable to the second-class spiritual power, he showed a crushing momentum, almost killing him instantly. If he hadn't taken action, I'm afraid Hwako Mundo's creatures wouldn't be so powerful retreat decisively. Someone mentioned Bai Ye, and his eyes were full of awe and longing. It can be said, in this battle, apart from all Gote 13, Bai Ye is the biggest contributor. His role in this battle is enough to rank first. No one can replace him. Even Captain Yamamoto mostly plays a strategic deterrent role. And the one fighting at the front is none other than Bai Ye. Not to mention, the combat power shown by Bai Ye alone is comparable to half of Gote 13. One person killed thousands of Manos Grande in a very short time, and even an admiral of Hwako Mundo. Look at the entire Seireitei. Besides Yamamoto Captain Bankai, who else can do it? And Zaraki Kenpachi, who is notorious in Rukongai and likes to look for strong people to challenge him everywhere, has also experienced a reversal in his reputation. No matter what he has done before. But this time he performed particularly well in the battle to protect Hwako Mundo. He also killed the admiral from Hwako Mundo and protected the creatures of Rukongai. Although there are countless people in Rukongai who hate him, this matter is really not mentioned. I don't know, if these two people fight together, who will be stronger? Whisper. Strong curiosity arose in my heart. You know, when Zaraki Kenpachi and Bai Ye killed Hwako Mundo Admiral, they both showed a crushing force, although Bai Ye killed it faster. But this only has to do with his training ability and fighting style. It does not prove that he is stronger than Zaraki Kenpachi. Who is strong and who is weak can only be determined after the battle. Just when the outside world is in full swing and there are different opinions. Inside Y Pavilion, it was peaceful and peaceful. Drink. As long as Master Bai Ye is here, there is no need to worry about safety. At this time, the drinkers inside were all drunk, and when the name, Bai Ye, was mentioned, they all looked in awe. Before, people near Rukongai saw Bai Ye take action, and some of them were even saved by Bai Ye. Bai Ye now. The prestige in the neighborhood has reached its peak, even more effective than Central 46. As for Y Pavilion, although the cost is not low, it has become the first choice for people around to gather. There are even many people racking their brains, even if they just serve tea and water, they want to enter Y Pavilion and seek a job. Above Y Pavilion, a handsome-looking young man with broken black hair on his forehead, wearing pajamas like home clothes, was lying lazily on the sofa. There was a maid next to him pressing his shoulders. And in front of him, Feijun and the maids trained by Y Pavilion performed dances carefully, and the sound of silk and bamboo could be heard, making people feel relaxed and happy. Bai Ye nodded with satisfaction. He casually took a sip of wine. After the previous battle, Y Pavilion's income has also steadily increased. If the previous month's income was 100,000 rings, now, the monthly income has reached a whopping 200,000 rings. It can be said, Y Pavilion's monthly income is as much as the wealth of those small and medium-sized nobles. Although Bai Ye does not have high demand for money, who can refuse the free income? But, just when Bai Ye was drinking. In my mind, the system's mechanical sound continued to sound. Open black lens bracket ding. Close black lens bracket. Congratulations to host, you had a great time drinking, watching Feijun's dance, and enjoying the service of the maid after the war. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket host gets reward. White hits Forbidden Technique, One Punch Man, close black lens bracket. White hits Forbidden Technique, One Punch Man. Seeing this name, Bai Ye sat up straighter slightly. This name reminded him of a certain bald man in a certain anime he watched in his previous life. It can be said, any opponent can be defeated with one punch. If it can't be solved, then give it another serious punch. As the mechanical sound disappears, Bai Ye felt as if his body was wrapped in a strange energy, especially his fists, which had a warm feeling. Even under dim light, it exudes a white jade-like color. Bai Ye opens his own panel. Open black lens bracket host. Bai Ye close black lens bracket. Zanpakutō. Lufeng Weishui unlock Shikai, Lufeng Weishui. Ling Wei. 3rd class 65%. Swordsmanship. Captain level. Close black lens bracket. White hits. Captain level. Forbidden technique. One Punch Man. Close black lens bracket. Shunpo. Captain level. Forbidden technique. Taishu Shun singing Zhao's god. Kidō. Master all the first 50, no need to chant, cast instantly. Forbidden technique. Double chant Forbidden technique, sealing heaven Talisman Seal, Hado all mastered. Close black lens bracket. Special ability. Heart of the Divine Blade. Close black lens bracket. He watched the introduction of One Punch Man. You can concentrate all your body's strength into one punch and punch it out directly. And he will also unconditionally amplify his power tenfold. Bai Ye's pupils contracted slightly. The power of the whole body, magnified 10 times. If a powerful man like Mr. Yamamoto obtains the spiritual power, can he directly blow the world to pieces? After all, if the old man were Bankai, he would have world-destroying combat power. Although One Punch Man is just a simple taijutsu, if the old man's power could be increased tenfold, the power he could exert would probably not be inferior to Ryujin Jaka's Bankai. Even stronger. 080. What exactly does Bai Ye practice? Master Bai Ye. The singing and dancing gradually dispersed, and Feijun looked at Bai Ye with a puzzled look. It felt like he was thinking about something. But Bai Ye walked directly to the secret door of the underground training ground. I'm going down to practice. If you have any questions, just come to me at the training ground. Okay, Master Bai Ye. Fei Zhen looked respectful and a little surprised at the same time. Did not expect. Master Bai Ye also wants to practice. The sun is rising from the west today. Maybe it has something to do with that rumor. Fei Zhen thought of Soul Society and some recent rumors. Like Master Bai Ye, Zaraki Kenpachi, who performed brilliantly in the battle against Hawako Mundo, is a fighting madman, and he also said that he wants to fight Bai Ye. Maybe Master Bai Ye's unprecedented practice is related to this rumor. He wants to maximize his strength and then face the challenge from Zaraki Kenpachi. Not long after, Bai Ye came to the training ground below the Flower Night Pavilion, which was modeled after the training base of Yoruichi and Urahara Kazuki. The sky is blue, and the surrounding area is huge. The ground is made of solid loess, sand and gravel, and there are some cliffs standing in the entire 120 space. Bai Ye was satisfied. He had never been to the training ground here before, and he only knew that there was such a place under Y Pavilion. Now it seems that the training ground here is larger than the training ground under the Maple Leaf Pavilion of Seireitei. Yoruichi and Sister Hana are still very thoughtful. Now, let's try the power of the so-called One Punch Man. Bai Ye thought in his heart. Subsequently, he raised his hand slightly, and with a thought in his mind, Reiatsu, who was like the Yangtze River, rushed madly towards the direction of his arm, and gradually gathered there. The pressure around Bai Ye became more and more intense, and huge spider web-like cracks opened in the surrounding ground, unable to withstand this terrifying pressure. All the strength in his body. They all gathered on that fist. Around the fist, the space was trembling wildly, as if it was about to be destroyed by waves. Bai Ye waved his fist, causing the wind to roar, mixed with the sound of click, click, the space was shattering. Boom. An extremely huge, oppressive energy wave that seemed to be destroying everything was rushing forward. The space around him exploded instantly, revealing patches of dark cracks in space, from which came terrifying tearing power. The earth sank and mountains and rivers overturned. The entire underground space was shaking crazily, and the sky was filled with smoke and dust. The huge amount of energy caused the temperature of the entire space to rise sharply, causing even a trace of sweat to flow from Bai Ye's forehead. At the same time, above, in the direction of Y Pavilion. Boom. The ground was shaking, and the entire Rukongai could feel the terrifying power spreading crazily. The buildings seemed to be dancing on the ground, especially the Flower Night Pavilion, which was swaying here and there as if it was about to explode at any time. Ah, is it an earthquake? Everyone who was drinking in Y Pavilion was shocked, and then continued drinking as if nothing happened. Anyway, Mr. Bai Ye is here. Even if the sky collapses, he will still bear it. Why should I and others worry? As for Feijun and others, they followed the shaking of Y Pavilion and then returned to normal. None of them had too many worries. After all, the construction of Y Pavilion is made of Soul Society's top-notch materials, which can withstand various disasters. Unless the entire Earth is overturned, it will not have much impact on Y Pavilion. Only, at this time, trembling underground, Feijun couldn't help but think of Bai Ye who was practicing underground. Could it be? All of this is the aftermath of Master Bai Ye's practice. Fei Zhen's eyes trembled. It seems that the strength used to deal with the virtual tide before is not the limit of Master Bai Ye. It can make the earth tremble to such an extent. Master Bai Ye, what exactly do you practice? At this time, Underground training ground. Bai Ye looked at the scene in front of him and couldn't help but take a breath of air. I saw that the entire land was devastated, as if it had been divided into two parts, and the spreading ravines spread crazily forward in a fan-shaped shape, and spread to the end of the line of sight. I don't know how many miles it stretches. The ravines are even more unfathomable, and some of the soil is even burned and melted by the high temperature emitted by the energy, turning into scarlet and viscous magma. The surrounding space is full of traces of being blasted to pieces, and there are countless black cracks in the space. Anything that comes into contact with it will be torn into pieces. This kind of power. Bai Ye nodded with satisfaction. I'm afraid the one-sword cremation, performed by Mr. Yamamoto himself is no better than this. Just when Bai Ye was practicing. Hawako Mundo. Zai Palace. Stark, Baragan, Haribel, Grimjow and others all sat at the table in silence. There was silence in the air. Everyone looked at the man with square eyes and a gentle face on the main seat. There was even a drop of cold sweat on Baragan's forehead. This time things are big. The attack on Soul Society not only failed to kill even one of the captains, but even two Espada members were directly killed. This is a fatal injury to the entire Hawako Mundo. The Espada, which could have filled the table, now has two more empty seats. Only. Above. Aizen's expression remained unchanged, he just took a pot of tea and drank it happily. Everyone, this time is not a complete failure. The missing Espada member will be replaced by a Juka's level Manos Grande from below. Aizen's words are soft and full of convincing appeal. The brown hair looks slightly curly, full of the temperament of an elegant scholar. Death of Espada member. For the entire Hawako Mundo, it is just like pebbles thrown into a pond, without much impact. After all, in Hawako Mundo, the most indispensable thing is hollows. Hollows are swallowing up and evolving every moment. The previous Espada members just enjoyed the dividends of Hogyoku and evolved into Arankar. If you want to supplement your combat power, you can use Hogyoku to create 2 more Espadas, or even 20. Or, you can find Neluil and the others who are living outside. Sir Aizen, it was our mistake this time. Haribel bit her lip, trying to resist the responsibility. Aside, Grimjow's face also turned a little dark. The void is endless, but Shinigami is not easy to supplement. Aizen just said lightly, dismissing the topic lightly. This time, although he didn't kill the captain-level strong man. But the ordinary members of Gote 13 suffered thousands of casualties in the battle with Shushio, which is equivalent to 1/3 of Gote 13's power emperors. And in the retreating tide, there are many hollows who have evolved due to swallowing spiritual bodies. In addition to the Jillian level, some Ijuka's level Manos Grande have become even more powerful. With a little training, and with the help of Hogyoku's power, he can become a talent whose combat power is no less than Espada's.